I'm in the field, 2-minute drill, highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control, buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back that back, Nat chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care. Come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. The G on the beat, hey. Yeah.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
I guess everyone hates me. It's another flop.
That's how you take it when people don't flood your posts with likes. You're like, everybody hates me.
No, I'm saying I understand how some people get depressed because of social media. Like the thought of when you post something of, this is going to turn out great, and it flops. Welcome in, everybody.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see, I do understand the feeling of I put a lot of work into this, and I feel like it was not reciprocated with the amount of love that I thought it would. I understand that aspect of it. That sucks. I really thought about this when I crafted it. But yeah, welcome in, everybody. That's enough of our random tangent. Helping Kirby out over there with the social media platforms. Just need some advice. Go like his posts. Go follow him. Go follow us if you haven't already, because he's got bangers over there, and not enough people are paying attention to him. But welcome to the NBR Hour. We got a loaded show for you guys today. It's really just a show of a lot of different topics, a lot of different news items that have been circulating around college football. So we're going to cover all of those things. Kirby is bringing his weekly top 5 of the week. We'll see what this one is. Last week we had best 80s songs. Today we'll see. We'll wait and see. We'll see if there's any criticism. I don't know. So yeah, let's just dive right into the content though, Kirby. Ryan Day thinks there should be an NFL draft for college football.
Yeah, it's more of a suggestion than anything, and kind of an idea he floated out. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Do you want me to, this is the first segment we're actually talking about, or are you previewing the rest?
I'll go ahead and give a rundown too. Okay. Just wanted to tease that one out there for you guys. Off the surface of just that headline though, I don't know if that's even possible. I don't even know how that would work, but interested to see how Ryan Day thinks it would work. NCAA being proactive for once, not reactive, proactive. Go ahead and getting out in front of something that could have potentially been an issue. We'll see. We'll talk about it. There's already been some discussions of that doesn't matter. But you know what? Happy that an act was at least attempted from them. Alabama's AD and an SEC football coach joining in on the train of, hey, conference games, RIP, they're done. We don't need them anymore. Jeremiah Love had some comments about NIL and college football. Another Cam Newton comp dropped, Christian.
Oh, another one?
Is this the new Paul Feinbaum says? Greg McElroy says, hey, new Cam Newton comp dropped.
Good. I mean, sure, why not? Let's just keep comparing everyone we can to one of the greatest college football quarterbacks.
For as much of an anomaly as Cam Newton was and is, very strange that he often gets compared to other players. I guess it's just we really want somebody to be the next one. I don't know that we'll ever get another one of those, though. And then Curt Cignetti went to bat for one of his players after his former head coach had some crossed words, some would say, about his former player. So we're going to dive into that as well. But we'll go ahead and start with the Ryan Day one about how he thinks there should be an NFL draft for college football. How would this work? What did he propose?
So, yeah, obviously NIL and the talent acquisition and the way it goes is one of the biggest cruxes that's going on in college football right now, and it's leading all these people to say, hey, how can we fix this? The way that the highest bidder can get all the most talented players seems a bit unfair. What kind of reset can we do? Ryan Day was doing an interview today. I don't know who it was with. I believe it was someone with ESPN, but kind of talking about how what can we do to mitigate this, and he kind of floated out the idea of, hey, maybe we need to do some sort of NFL draft style model. It's a very half-baked idea on his end. It's not like Ryan Day came forward and was like, listen, everyone, I've got the perfect idea for how we're going to fix college football. Here's the draft. But here's a couple of quotes from him. He said, it's not too far-fetched for me to think that there's a way that we could actually have a draft and build it like the NFL. I know that seems a little bit out there, but we're going to need a lot of help to get there. I can tell you that right now. He went on to talk about more. Once we start going down this road of NIL, we have to go one of two ways. We almost have to go back to the way we were before, or we need to go all the way toward the NFL. I think right now we're in sort of a purgatory, and I think until we start to make some hard decisions and create the overall structure, we're going to still be in this phase. Now, the idea and the sentiment of, hey, let's create an NFL-style draft where these players get to choose, or the teams get to choose, and it's an allotment. It's not necessarily, biggest spender gets the most talent. I appreciate that sentiment. I appreciate the idea of this is how we'll mitigate big spenders just taking all the talent and things like that. What I don't really love is the idea that, one, there's not really a set model in place. There's no NCAA minimum right now. You'd have to do hardcore negotiating for that. You'd have to unionize players for that to get the case. And then you're also going to tell players at 17, 18 years old, hey, here's where you're going to spend the rest of your college career. And even at that point, if it's just not a school you don't want to go to, just hit the transfer portal. So the sentiment is great in that there's got to be something that can be done to stop big buyers from just buying all the talent. I don't think an NFL-style draft is going to work.
No, there's too many teams. There's too many players. Like there's too much involved there for a draft style to work. Now, I did hear this was on the Bill Simmons show, and it wasn't Bill Simmons' idea. It was a guest that he had. I can't remember the person's name, but this was an interesting idea. Now, they were actually talking about college basketball, but they were obviously this would work for all of college sports. And again, I don't think that this is actually a solution. But he proposed that you should have to, like, wherever you play high school football or basketball or wherever, like say you play high school football in the state of Georgia, you could only go to a college that is either in the state of Georgia or that is touching the border of Georgia. So, like, all these players are set to a region now, and you have to play in that region. And the sentiment behind this was now you get kids that have, like, some hometown value a little bit to where they're from. Like, maybe there's a little more passion to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, this wouldn't work. And, like, the solution to that for anybody is we'll just go transfer to a different high school. If you want to go play for someone else, you just transfer to a different high school, and it alleviates any of that. But just an interesting, like, theory, I suppose, that was proposed for that. Again, like, I don't think there's a solution to this up until the point of we get some regulation set.
The thing I learn more and more as the older I get and watch the way this sport revolves is basically everything from the year of 2020 was thought through as, you know what, this is a good idea. It seems like the right thing to do. Let's do it without any plan of execution.
Yeah.
Paying players was long overdue. Having some form of monetary compensation for what these people were doing on the field and the revenue that they were bringing into the school, they absolutely should have been getting some form of money. The NCAA, the schools at hand, everyone else failed to realize the fact that if we just open the floodgates and say, yeah, these guys can get paid, you're essentially creating this type of sport that you have right now where everyone's looking around going, this is a mess. Rosters are $40 million and it's not slowing down. We talked about that earlier this week. So I agree with the idea that something's got to change, and I love all of these, we can do this and make it only the high school regionality. It's a bunch of great ideas that when you get into the nitty-gritty of how to execute it, they're all terrible and they make things worse. So
for sure.
That's what got us here. So at some point, there has to be a real thought-out execution. And to the fairness of the NCAA, it was simpler back then.
Right.
Oh, if you're paying players, you get suspended. You get punished. It was simple. Nowadays, there's too many more nuances for it. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a whole lot you could get into there about what could maybe level the playing field even more. I know that NIL has created parity in a sense. That's what everybody likes to talk about with all sports. This isn't even just a college football discussion. People would say that college basketball games are better than ever. It has leveled the playing field, but there's also aspects to it that haven't leveled the playing field because now it is whoever has the biggest budget can also get the biggest players. And that's certainly an advantage that you can have. If you can get donors or you can get alumni to pour a bunch of money into your program, that's an advantage to you. The ability to get those people to buy into what you're selling, that's an advantage, but it's also kind of cutting out a large portion of the programs.
Yeah, and I mean, even the NIL has brought parity thing. I don't know if I fully agree with that. Like, Indiana is certainly a great case for that, but you could almost argue that what Indiana did wasn't because they were just out here getting racks and things like that.
I will say this, that at least NIL has certainly made sense. Like, had you expanded the playoff field to 12 teams pre-NIL, it wouldn't have made any sense. I feel like it would have made no sense at all, because we talk about it all the time, especially when we get into the offseason, about how like 5 years ago when you went into an offseason, you usually had 3 teams that you felt like had a legitimate chance of winning a national title, and typically one of those 3 teams ended up being the team that won it. And even going into the playoff field, you certainly didn't think that there was more than 4 teams that could win a national title, to where now it's at least believable that one of those 12 teams is good enough to win a national title. It's not just set around 3 teams that are at the top, and then there's a big step down from the rest. But so like it at least makes sense in that. But again, there's a lot of different issues with this. But the good news is, now that we've just kind of crapped on the NCAA a little bit and how things have gotten really out of hand ever since I started paying players, they did do something that is somewhat promising, and I will give them a little golf clap for being proactive in this and not being reactive, and that's about the ghost transfers.
Yes.
And we actually discussed this before it actually had a name, where we were like, all right, the spring transfer portal has been eliminated for college football, but what's stopping a player from just unenrolling at a school and enrolling somewhere else, not entering the transfer portal, but since they are student athletes by name, what's stopping them from just unenrolling at a university and then just saying, all right, I'm going to enroll there and I'll be a walk-on. I won't be on scholarship. I'll just go play football there. So those are called ghost transfers. Those are what they're being called. That's what they're being called. And the NCAA has proposed some rules as to help keep teams away from doing these things. And this is an article from Brandon Marcello over at CBS Sports. So here's are the rules that they're presenting. The legislation approved Wednesday imposes severe penalties on programs that accept players who transfer without entering the portal, a half-season suspension for the head coach from all coaching, recruiting, and administrative duties, and a fine equal to 20% of the school's football budget. Sounds great. It's great that we're putting rules into place. It's great that we're telling teams like, hey, you better not do this because there are rules against this, and if you do so, they will be punished. But as we all know, in the reality of college football and what some quotes in this article allude to, it really doesn't matter, because as soon as one lawsuit is won, everything goes to crap. It doesn't matter what rules you've said. And here are some quotes that some coaches gave on this. This is from an AAC head coach. It's going to add legal chaos, but it will keep rosters mostly intact until one player wins a lawsuit. So there's one quote on that one. There's another quote down here. If they actually do it to somebody who violates it, absolutely it'll work. One as ACC coaches. So again, if it actually works, this is great, but nobody knows if this is actually going to work. There's no way in hell any of this shit holds up. An SEC head coach told CBS Sports, if a kid gets kicked off a team, he can't join another team. That's a valid point that he's making too.
It's a very valid point.
I mean, you're in the middle of spring football, a player gets kicked out the football team. What's stopping him from going to another school before college football starts? Now, I don't know if that actually applies to the ghost transfer rule. I don't know. I don't know the actual inner workings of that and what the actual language says, what is a ghost transfer and what isn't. But
yeah, well, I mean, you just pointed out a great loophole for that of, all right, I want to transfer. I can't be a ghost transfer because I'm going to, that's going to bring a penalty upon my new team and me. I'm just going to get kicked off of my team right now and get a hardship transfer. It's not hard to get kicked off a football team. Some teams do it for, showing up late to meetings enough or other things like that. Like,
I mean, not to do this thing, but we saw how easy it was for someone to get kicked off an NBA team this week.
Yeah, and I mean, that's certainly
it's a different, but I'm just saying,
yeah, no, you're right.
It's a slippery slope for some things.
Again, and what's to say that, I was kicked off my other team, I should be able to join this team, or I was, wrongfully dismissed for reasons. Like, we've seen players in situations where there's a pending legal case, they get dismissed from the team, and then things come back later, and, he was actually innocent. Like, stuff like that happens. So, Again, this goes back, and I feel like this is the theme of the episode of, I love the sentiment of this. I love the idea of this. I don't think the execution is going to be as cut and dry.
Right. So, again, that's why I wanted to start by saying This is good that the NCAA is at least trying. They're being proactive in this. Like, they didn't wait for spring football to wrap up and then players start being ghost transfers and be like, oh, we need to do something about this. Holy crap, how did we not know this was about to happen? Like we have seen in other instances with this sport. And there's another quote in here, too, that comes from a Big Ten general manager. Nothing even came of Xavier Lucas leaving for Miami last year other than the fact he played for a national title. There are no teeth right now until somebody really gets hammered for something. No one is scared. And if I'm a blue blood program, what is there to be scared of? The NCAA is going to go for the low-hanging fruit and not the big boys.
No, I mean, it's 1,000% correct. Like, we're seeing rampant, and again, the NCAA has no power, unfortunately. We've seen that. The NCAA is making threats, and the NCAA is doing things that are proactive, and we pray to God that can work so they can enforce some consistency within this league. But so far, nothing has stuck. From basically the last 3 or 4 years, any rule the NCAA has brought down has been met with in court, and it's basically up to the judges. The judges hold all the power here. Mm-hmm. It's not the NCAA. They can make the rules. They can talk about eligibility. That's gotten sued into oblivion. Like, There is no – I have very little hope things will get better as long as the NCAA is the governing body of college football.
Yeah.
Which sucks. The NCAA is what made college football. It's the body that has been the vessel for this sport for its entire existence, essentially. But we're at a point now where the NCAA has, one, a very outdated system, and two, has made a handful of mistakes along the way that has diminished its power to the point where – if we want this sport to survive, we're probably going to have to see some separation from it.
Yeah. And so really, ultimately, I think what this is going to take, and we've talked about this before, for teams to really start listening to rules and obeying these rules that are being put in place, I think the conferences are going to have to be the ones that govern those rules. We can't put all of the weight on the NCAA right now because we know what the situation is. We know how little power they have. Like, despite their efforts to try and do the right things in these situations or what they think is the right things to do, it ultimately doesn't matter because they're getting their butt whooped in court every time they look around. So I think it is kind of being put on the conferences to really, like, if you want to govern this, if you don't want this to be a thing, it's on the conferences. But then you get into the situation of like, okay, we're telling the SEC said they can't take ghost transfers, but the Big Ten didn't say anything about it. They're not doing anything about it. The Big 12 didn't do anything about it. So it would have to take a unification between all the conferences too.
Well, not only that, yeah. And plus, if I'm a conference, enforcing rules is basically limiting my ability to win games and be a certain team. I'm going to look the other way on a lot of things for the sake of my conferences and the teams within it because the more games I win, the better I look as a conference, the more revenue I'm brought in. So, yeah, it'd be great to say, all right, SEC, you're going to govern all these tamperings, and Big Ten, you're going to do that. And sure, you'll get some cross-pollination between the two, but the NCAA is not going to enforce anything if, say, just for hypothetical sake, say if Alabama goes out and steals Bryce Underwood. You think the NCAA is going to come down and say, hey, or the SEC is going to come down and say, hey, this is against the rules here. We're going to sanction Alabama and punish them. Sorry, Michigan, this happened. No. Alabama's going to be like, well, there's legality, things of it, so you have to have one overarching body that's going to be able to enforce all the rules and have enough power to do so, which it's very clear the NCAA does not have that right now.
Yeah, I mean, even in the instances where, like, going back to last college basketball season where Alabama has a former professional athlete playing for them. Now, ultimately, that player was told that he could not play for Alabama anymore and that it was against the rules, and that was a win ultimately, but what was the punishment for Alabama ultimately? Nothing. They got 5 games out of him, and they were able to use him. And then when they were told him it was against the rules, they just kept going. Like, there was no actual punishment for that happening to them. So you can basically take as many risks as you want and not be punished for them. So that's the other thing of there's nothing stopping teams from even taking the risk because ultimately there's no punishment for them committing the act anyways.
Exactly. All right, let's get some more hopeful stories we've got. I think the last 2 have been kind of downers.
You're right. I know. Anything that involves, like, the current climate of college football, I know we kind of get bogged down in that, and it's kind of doom and gloom. So what's a positive segment, you think?
Sig went to bat today.
For a coach standing up for his player. Yeah, that's a
we
good
always
segment.
love to see this, and especially after, our last segment was talking about how Cignetti's trashing a player for gold cleats. And so, did you see the commenter that said that was a lazy take by us?
Really?
That was interesting. I was like, dang, dude, I'm sorry.
Like, they thought we were the ones giving the take.
Well, they
about
thought
it?
like the content in general was lazy because it's a nothing story. But I mean, I guess he's got a point. But
Okay.
this is less of a nothing story. Don't worry.
Okay. My apologies to that person. I promise we don't bring things that we think are nothing
Dude,
stories.
Don't worry about it. Hey, look, we're good.
I'm just speaking for the people, the listeners, the people that we care about. All right, yeah. Curt Cignetti went to bat for his quarterback, Josh Hoover. Now, if you remember, very recently, Sonny Dykes was in the middle of an interview and talked about how much he turned the ball over. Now, that's something he's got to fix because he did a lot of it over at TCU. And people took that a certain way because it felt like most people felt like it was just Sonny Dykes taking a shot at a player that left his program and was like, I'm going somewhere better. I don't need you guys anymore. I'm going to Indiana now. So people took it more as a Sonny Dykes taking a shot at a player that told him adios as opposed to him actually giving analysis on a player. And Cignetti decided to go to bat for Hoover. And I believe this was after a spring practice.
Yeah, he was at a media availability. I don't remember which one.
So this is a quote from Sig. We've got to clean up some of the turnovers, obviously, which Coach Dykes made light of. But when Josh got here, he met his two new best friends, great defense and a really good run game, and he was never the same after that.
So we're getting a little back and forth between the coaches now of, well, the reason he did that is because your program wasn't shit, Sonny.
And to both of these coaches' credits, neither one of them are wrong in what they're saying. I've talked about, and we have talked about all the time with Josh Hoover about, hey, he's had some turnover issues in the past, but that might get alleviated a little bit at Indiana because he didn't have the best weapons, and he didn't have a run game, and he didn't have the best offensive line. So you're kind of forcing the issue a little bit when you compile all of those issues. Sometimes that results into a quarterback pushing the envelope a little bit and throwing into tight windows and maybe making a throw that he shouldn't, and it results in a turnover. And Cignetti's not wrong in saying that, and Sonny Dykes is not wrong in saying that Josh Hoover had a turnover problem. Ultimately, though, I don't think there's an issue with what either coach said.
No, I think Sonny Dykes got dragged through the mud a little bit of because, like, oh, you don't say this about a former player of yours. That's a kid. And at what point are we going to allow these coaches to kind of not send shots, but bring light to the situation of some of the flaws they felt like they had players have? Anytime a coach takes a job somewhere else and we do the thing of like, oh, well, they can enter the transfer portal of their own, and anytime a former player speaks, like we've seen handfuls and handfuls of Ole Miss players make jokes at the expense of Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin left them in the dust, rightfully so. Everyone understands it. Everyone kind of enjoys that when jokes are made at the expense of Lane Kiffin. At what point do we afford the coaches the same things when these players, who, by the way, are grown men, the majority of these players are 18, 19, sometimes 23, 24 years old when they're doing these decisions. They know what they're doing. They're making business decisions. They're leaving someone who invested time, money, and resources into them and saying, hey, I'm going to go elsewhere for better opportunities. I understand why Sonny Dykes in this feels a little burned. I understand why Sonny Dykes may be apropos to say, well, yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions for us. Like, he's not a perfect quarterback. I get it. Does it make Sonny Dykes look great? No. Is it the petty way to go about things? Sure, but I don't think we need to drag Sonny Dykes through the mud for it.
No, I don't think so either. And I would imagine that comment that he made about Josh probably isn't something that he didn't also say to Josh during his time at TCU. Like, I'm sure there were situations where they're in Sunday meetings or they're at practice where it's like, buddy, we got to cut the turnovers. We got to limit the turnovers here. We're throwing too many of them. We're forcing too many issues. We've got to stop throwing interceptions. I'm sure that was a conversation that they had. So I think there is a difference between saying, yeah, he had a lot of turnovers here, and also saying like, well, thank goodness he's not here anymore because he was horrible.
Yeah, no, this isn't a Jaden Daniels situation where they're tearing out his locker and they're like, he sucked anyways. Like, this is very much just a coach saying, hey, this kid's got flaws. And then they kind of made a joke out of like, he threw however many interceptions this season for us. So I get it.
Yeah. And I understand too that like it's the timing and when you say things. It's the context around everything of when you say something. Because I mean, when you make that comment about a quarterback that used to play for you and that you were invested in, I mean, he spent multiple seasons with TCU and he was their starting quarterback for multiple seasons. It feels really weird to air it out a little bit after he's no longer on your roster because then everybody's assuming that there's an underlying layer to this, that you're not just talking about the fact that he threw turnovers. You're now trying to take a shot at a player intentionally because he's no longer playing for you, because if he was still playing for you, you're not sitting here making this comment. But maybe he is. Maybe Sonny Dykes is sitting there in the offseason talking about Josh Hoover going into another season of being the starting quarterback there, and he's like, yeah, he threw too many interceptions last year, and that's something that we're working on. Maybe he does say that, but because of the circumstances and because of the context around everything, that's not how people take it.
On the flip side of this, I think Sig's response is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of no, it's not Josh, and just putting it on the other team of, well, the reason he was throwing interceptions was maybe because the defense wasn't good and blocking wasn't there. Like putting it immediately back in. Now it's going to start a beef between TCU and Indiana, so that'll be fun to watch.
Which doesn't matter at all. They're not even in the same conference.
No,
so.
I mean, they might meet in the playoffs this year.
Potentially, maybe TCU ends up being the Big 12 representative in the college football playoff. Who knows? But yeah, I think Curt Cignetti did all three things here. He let Sonny Dykes know that he saw his comment about his quarterback by saying, which Coach Dykes made light of already. He went to bat for his quarterback, and he also complimented the rest of his team. So I mean, he did all three things there. I think you're right that it's the right decision to obviously defend your quarterback. You can't let something like that fly and just not respond to it, in my opinion. So good on Curt Cignetti for doing that. Good on him for defending his quarterback. But again, I don't think either coach is in the wrong. I don't think Josh Hoover's in the wrong, certainly, for seeking a better opportunity that he viewed as a better opportunity for himself in this situation. I think it's just, hey, we're good now. Everybody said their piece, and now it's time to go play football.
Exactly.
Do you want to do your top five now, or do you want to save it? Let's save it.
What do you want me to save it for?
Maybe the end of the show? Do we want to cap the show off with that?
We can cap the show off with
Let's
that.
cap the show off with that. Let's talk about this.
Hey, you're in the boss's chair. You run everything now.
Oh, really giving me all the power here.
Yeah, man. I'm just over here pressing buttons. Which, by the way, you ever think about how, yes, Brooks is the authoritative figure, but we kind of control the power as far as broadcasts go.
We do have we don't have maybe as much power as he does, but we do have two of the most powerful things in the studio.
I mean, we technically are holding the nuclear football.
Now,
I can change the camera at any moment with a click of a mouse. You've end the stream.
He's
over there on his own.
I think I have the most powerful thing at my availability during the show of I'll just cut this thing off whenever I want. And there's really nothing you can do to stop me from doing that. Not that I ever would, but
well, maybe.
Just want to feel the power a little bit.
Maybe if Brooks is giving a take we really disagree with, just say.
That's it, everybody. That's enough.
Over now.
That's enough of that. I do want to talk about this. I think this is probably the most pressing piece of news that we have had come out over the past couple of days. And that is the discussion of, this is about the SEC title game, but let's face it, this is about conference championship games.
In general.
If the SEC decides that they want to do this, you would imagine that majority of conferences probably follow suit. And this is the fact that we now have two prominent people have discussed how they think that the SEC title game should be no more. We shouldn't play it anymore. Now, this was a massive talking point this past season in the middle of conference championship weekends because the playoff field has been expanded. It's only going to get expanded even more, and that matters because there's going to be even more games that are played in a season if you make the college football playoffs. But really the big proponent that everybody wants to talk about with the conference championships is that it seems unfair that the better teams are having to play an extra game while everybody else is sitting at home getting an extra week of rest. And when you look back at the SEC championship game last year, I mean, Georgia and Alabama were banged up. I mean, they were two of the most beat-up teams at that point in the year in all of college football. I mean, on both sides. That's not even just making an excuse for Alabama because they lost. Georgia had a bunch of players injured. Alabama had a bunch of players injured. And Kirby Smart talked about it after the game too. But Alabama's AD, Greg Byrne, is that how you'd say that?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
All right, Greg Byrne said
pronunciations on this show is never our strong suit. So.
Gave his ultimate take on this, and he said, "I think the ship has sailed." Byrne told USA Today, "It's run its course. It's a great event. I don't like the idea of it going away, but I think it's reality with an expanded playoff." And Kirby Smart gave the same sentiment to this. Mm-hmm. We know how passionate Kirby Smart is about the SEC championship game. He's gone as far as to say that it's better than the Super Bowl. That's how he views it. And he basically said the same thing of, I don't want to see the game go, but if we get past 12 teams, I think that we've ultimately reached the point where we have to. We just have to cut our ties with it and say we can't do this anymore.
Now, obviously, there is a very mature and very reasonable take that is to be given about this situation, but can we indulge just for a few minutes as to, and Kirby Smart obviously diminishes this, but how funny it is, the optics of the Alabama AD, a team that went damn near 20 years without ever losing an SEC championship game. They go to Atlanta, they win. The first time that team loses in 17, 18 years, and by the way, loses big. It was a 21-point loss.
A beatdown.
They got beat down. The AD comes out and goes, that game, it's run its course. I think we're done playing it. It's funny optics. Obviously, that's not why the AD's saying that. Obviously, that's not why Greg Burns coming out and saying, all right, we're done playing the SEC, and we'll get into that later. But it is hilarious optics.
I don't think that we've actually even proposed this question or even thought about it from this side, but it's easier to see why maybe a Georgia or an Alabama or, one of the prominent powers in the SEC is probably okay with seeing the SEC championship game ultimately vanish down the road. Because look, Kirby Smart is in 10 years of coaching. Kirby Smart has played for 8 SEC titles. Is that what you said today?
Correct.
8 SEC titles. He's been in that game a ton. He's won 4 of them. Alabama's been in a ton of SEC championship games. What would a Missouri feel about this? A team that hasn't won one of these, or an Ole Miss who hasn't. Like, how do those programs feel about it? Of like, it's one thing to just say the game is no longer being played, but now you're also telling these other teams of you no longer have a shot at winning this game. Now you'll be crowned the regular season SEC champions like they do in basketball and baseball. Mm-hmm. Now they still have tournaments, but you won't get to ever play in that game.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, from a standpoint of, it has been a traditional Alabama, LSU, Georgia. Sometimes you throw Florida in there. Auburn will get there every now and then. But those have been the 5 teams that are typically in the SEC championship game. The rest of them do not typically make it. I know Missouri made it twice in 13 and 14, but it's been a collect 4 to 5 teams that are always playing at the game. You're right. Like, the meaning for these teams has been diminished because it has almost somewhat become a formality. I will say this, though. There's no denying that the meaning of this game has been greatly reduced.
For sure.
If you talk back and you go back and ask, hey, Alabama fans, how bad did that 2008 loss hurt to the Florida Gators? They will tell you. If you talk Georgia fans, hey, how great was it watching DJ Shockley and them win it all in 2005, the SEC championship? That's all great. Georgia's won the SEC championship the last 2 years in a row, back-to-back, never done before in that school's history. And if you ask every Georgia fan how this season ended for them the last 2 years, they would say it's been a disappointment.
Oh, for sure.
The meaning of that game has been diminished. Now, obviously, there's factors into that. Maybe it is oversaturation. Maybe Georgia's just played in it too damn much that they don't even care about it anymore. Maybe Alabama is the same way. Maybe the fact that we now have a 12-team playoff where so much meaning has been placed into how deep you make a run in that tournament that everything else is caught and fallen by the wayside. Bowl season's fallen by the wayside. I think conference championships are next. That's probably the next step here. So, yeah, you are right. Like, maybe it is an oversaturation of, we're kind of tired of this. But you don't really hear Ohio State talking about, well, the Big Ten championships run its course and things like that. So I think at the end of the day, this is mostly because of the expansion of the playoff and the idea that, we have to play another game. And realistically, let's look at the history of conference championships the last 3 years. 2023, we had 2 teams that were undefeated in the regular season, played in a conference title game, and missed the playoff because of that conference title game. Florida State because of how they looked without Jordan Travis, and Georgia because they lost to a top 10 Alabama team. Like, that was kind of the nail in the coffin for conference championships might not be the way to go here. And ever since then, Georgia lost its quarterback in 2024. There's been multiple reasons as to why this championship and these games are detrimental more than anything.
Well, and like the SEC conference championships, or really conference championships at least in the ACC, in the Big Ten, and in the SEC, like, to get into the 14 playoff, that was a path. Like, that was just a step in getting there. You had to win your conference. That was just the assumption going into the year. When there was 4 teams in a playoff, it was, if we're going to earn one of those 4 spots, it also means that we probably won our conference, unless it's a year like 2017 where Georgia and Alabama get in. And Alabama didn't have to play in the SEC title game that year. Or 2021, yeah. But for the most part, if you were going to make the 14 playoff, it also meant you had to win your conference. Mm-hmm. So that game had a lot of value then. And even going back to 2023, when Georgia was undefeated, Georgia fans, whether they wanted to accept it or not, deep down they knew, even though we're undefeated, even though we're 12-0, we still have to go and beat Alabama to get our ticket punched for the college football playoff. And you didn't, and you missed the playoff. Whereas now, you don't even have to make the game to get your ticket punched. In fact, the teams that don't make the game, it feels like their ticket is already punched, and you're kind of still sitting there on the chopping block, like, all right, is this going to be it or not? And you're in a situation like Alabama was last year where if they don't make it to the SEC title game, they're in. They're one of the 12 best teams.
Right.
But then they go and lose 28-7, and all of a sudden there's a conversation of should they be in?
Mm-hmm.
Like their most recent game, they just got boxed by Georgia, who we believe is one of the best teams in the country. And are they worthy of one of the 12 spots now? Now, they were still in the playoff, but that discussion sparks up, and it really pushes the conversation of, does this game matter? Is it worth playing anymore? On top of dealing with injuries, like, should this game be played? And so I agree that once we get past 12 teams, I think it's without a doubt, you got to step away from it. It's got to be done.
I mean, there's a case even for it now. Like Kirby Smart, as the confetti was raining down, sitting next to Tim Tebow this year after winning an SEC championship, goes, I don't know if this might be one of the last ones we win. Not from an implication of we're not coming back here, of this game might not exist anymore. So it's definitely been weighing on the minds of a lot of people. And I think that the realistic path for conference championships is whenever that day comes where, the powers that be decide we need 16 teams, or God forbid we need 24 teams, or we need more expansion, conference championships will disappear, which sucks, and I hate it because that is a really fun game to watch. They've always been so impactful, but at the same point, if you're going to inflate the postseason tournament that much, the exhibition game that at the end of the day hasn't proven to mean that much to fans, there's no reason to play in it.
Yeah, I know that people have talked about where you make it more than one game, like you have your top two teams in the conference play for the SEC title, and then you have your next two teams play for third place. Like, I know that people have talked about that with conferences, but I just don't know if there's enough interest in that. I don't know if teams want to do that. I think the best thing to do is with the direction that we're heading, where it seems like we're going to 16 teams, or we might even eventually end up to 24 teams. It's just the value is not there anymore. And it sucks to say that because I came here after the SEC championship game last year and gave a rant about how I don't want to hear anybody say how that game doesn't matter anymore, because every single time I go to a post-game press conference, I sit there and listen to a Trevor Achan, or I sit there and listen to a player like Raylan Wilson sit there and talk about how that's the most meaningful game of their life, how that's why they came here, how that game means so much to them, how they love playing in the SEC championship game, and that's what they work all season for other than a national title. But ultimately, it is where we're at. Like, the value of that just isn't there anymore. Like, it doesn't mean as much. And it sucks to say, but I think it's just the truth.
The ideal way to save conference championships and get your expanded playoff would be you go to divisions, the top two teams from each division within a conference play in a conference tournament that feeds directly into the playoff. And you do it similar to how the NFL does, to where, hey, the teams with the two best conference records, where it would be this year, it would be Georgia, A&M, Alabama, and who was fourth in the conference, whoever that was. Mm-hmm. They play in their 4-team tournament that feeds directly into the college football playoff. That's how you'd save it. And then the argument goes into, well, not all conferences are the same, not all divisions are the same. There's weaker. Like, it's always going to be a flaw, but you would get rid of you would add rigidity to that. So that's a more ideal way to save conference championships, in my opinion, of, okay, winning the conference still means something, and it still has a direct effect on the college football playoff, to the point where you don't have to look around and go, well, the third best team in the conference gets a bye week right now, while me and this other team are bashing heads trying to decide a tournament that will have virtually no effect on our placement or whether or not we'll win a national championship.
I mean, put it this way. Ask Oklahoma last year if they would have liked to play in the SEC title game. I would say probably not.
No.
You want them to have the potential of losing a third game? That could have been the detriment to their season. I think Miami ultimately was happy they didn't play for an SEC title game, because they were already sitting at 2 losses, and because they didn't play that week, that probably played a reason in them getting in. Had you let them go and play in the ACC title game, and they, God forbid, they lose that game, they're not playing for a national title last season. So, like, even the teams that aren't playing in the conference title game, they're probably sitting there being like, I don't want to be in that game.
No, it does not make sense anymore to the format that we have, which sucks because I love that game. But you want to save it, go to divisions, force Notre Dame, hey, you're going to have to play within one of these conferences, and if you have a top 2 record, you'll be in, but Notre Dame doesn't want to play that ball. So
ultimately, I think the best solution to this, to where you don't just completely dissipate conference championship weekend, is you create some type of play-in game, but I don't know how you calculate that. It would be to the tune of, you have 2 teams that you feel like need to play an extra game to earn their way into the playoff, but how you determine which 2 teams need that game the most, I don't know how that works. So I don't know. But I think the good news of this potentially is if you did do away with conference championship weekend, it might expedite the schedule a little bit.
I mean,
could at least do that.
I mean, that's definitely a given. I think they're going to find a way to do that anyways. Like people talking about how schedule ends in January, late January. What are we doing? Like
we're almost in February.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
I mean, you've got guys that are turning their attentions to draft processes and things like that. Like we talked about it at the draft or the combine. More and more players are sitting out because, hey, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was still playing football. I haven't given my body time to rest, and I damn sure haven't been able to train for this combine. So I'm pushing everything back to pro day. Like you're seeing more and more of that because the schedule's so long.
Yeah, I mean, when you prolong one thing, you're prolonging everything else. Mm-hmm. So, and the NFL is definitely not going to bend the knee to college football and be like, you know what, guys, you're right. Your season is taking too long, so we're going to move the NFL Combine back a few weeks. We're going to move the NFL Draft back a few weeks. We'll listen to you, and we'll bend the knee to you. They're definitely not going to do that. So maybe it is wishful thinking to think that eliminating conference championship weekend would solve some of the scheduling issue, but I don't know because I thought that it was already an issue, and then they're like, you know what, add 2 more weeks. So I don't know. I don't know if that is a solution or not, but it's definitely something to at least consider. Now, you mentioned the NFL Draft, and one of the most prominent names in the NFL Draft this year is Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. Some have gone as far as to say he's the best player in the NFL Draft this year, whether you want to agree with that or not. We know our takes. We gave our stance on that a couple weeks ago. But he had some comments about NIL, and you said that he's also a little out of touch here.
So Jeremiah Love, and I don't have the direct quote for it, I wish I did, but was basically asked about NIL, what he thinks about it, and he said he would like to see these new guys, the young guys, earn their NIL instead of being paid millions and millions of dollars just to be on the team, just to sign. And that's a fair sentiment. I think that it is frustrating when, especially as a player, I would say that if you're a second, third-year guy and then the freshman that's a rated 5 stars making 3 times as much as you just because of the price and because the bubble of talent evaluation has gone up and increased so much since then, yeah, it is certainly frustrating, and you would certainly say, hey, you need to earn your stripes. I think the problem with this is that it is still somewhat a little bit out of touch in that the price to just get in the door is that. And that's unfortunate because that is what the price of doing business is for college recruiting. But the way I look at it is the number 1 overall pick in the NFL, the guy who has not played a single down, half the time statistics say there's a 50% chance he'll be a bust. He won't ever reach the evaluation that he's given, gets a $30 million signing bonus the second his name is called on draft night. Right from there. The format's kind of the same in the NFL. It's not a, hey, here's the baseline. Now, rookie deals are obviously not your maximums that you would get, and there's veteran minimums and things like that. But at the same point, like, it is always kind of you get rewarded for getting your foot in the door.
I think that the conversation, though, is like when you go into the NFL draft, you know exactly what your contract, or you know you have a range of knowing what your contract is going to look like before you even select the player and before that player hears his name called. Like if you're drafted number 1 overall, you know you're going to get a $30 million signing bonus and you're going to have a 4-year contract with a 1-year option at the end of it. Like the contracts are structured the same, and everybody knows like as you get further and further down the draft, those numbers are going to look differently. The difference with how college football works is there is no structure to it. It's, hey, the number 1 player in the country by the rankings could be getting paid $2 million to go somewhere, but the 15th best player in the country, according to the rankings, he might be getting $3 million to go somewhere else. And so I understand what Jeremiah Love is saying, and I think a lot of college football fans would agree with what he's ultimately saying of it seems a bit skewed that these players aren't exactly earning what they're worth. They're just kind of being paid upright like what you believe their potential is. And ultimately guys, the older guys on the roster, the guys that have proven themselves on the roster, the guys that have been playing college football for the last 3 years, they end up getting, some of them are getting paid less than the incoming freshman that hasn't done anything yet. Like I do understand the flaw in that system, but I mean, that also happens in the NFL too. I mean, you could be a 10-year vet in the NFL and you might have a $3 million contract. Meanwhile, there's a rookie that's coming in that's about to get $30 million just wired to their account. So I understand both sides. I understand that it's also out of touch, but I do get like the absurdity of it is obviously there. That's
For
what I'm
sure.
getting at. Of like the structure is needed, and it's what we've said the entire time. Anything else on that?
No, I think it's one of those things. Again, the theme of this show is I like the sentiment of it, but the overall, when you get into the details, not necessarily as great as you think.
Right. Well, new Cam Newton comp dropped.
Oh, we got another one.
It's not really another one. They're kind of tied together, but it comes from a new person.
Oh.
And it comes from a person that everybody knows. Now, last week we were on the show talking about how how Whittingham compared Bryce Underwood to Cam Newton, and how we said, whoa, maybe pump the brakes there. We don't have to compare everybody to Cam Newton, guys. Like every big athlete that has a big arm doesn't need to be compared to Cam Newton. Well, then David Pollack said, hey, whoa, don't just look at Whittingham. I said this too. In fact, last season I said that Bryce Underwood reminded me of Cam Newton, and this is what Pollack said. Last year, I compared him to Cam Newton as well. It's hard to compare him to other people that aren't superhuman freakazoids because the dude is big, strong, athletic. He's chiseled. His body type, like there's not a lot of comparisons there. And this is the issue with the Cam Newton comp, and why I think it is so frequent is you see someone that is huge playing quarterback. You see how fast they are. You see how big of an arm they are, and everybody's like, Cam Newton. That's the next Cam Newton. But it's also to a fault because Cam Newton is such an anomaly. And when we were watching Cam Newton play college football, even when you were watching him play in the NFL, I think everybody kind of understood that this was an anomaly. You don't really get Cam Newtons all the time. In fact, you probably will never get another Cam Newton. But the issue with that is everybody wants to be the next one, or everybody wants to claim this guy is going to be the next one, and it's to a fault of these players at times.
Now, I love David Pollack. And I'm not going to, you're a Georgia Bulldog, you should know better than that. David Pollack played football and was on a roster with a guy who was athletic, had a strong arm. Now, he wasn't as tall as Cam Newton, but DJ Shockley kind of fits all the molds that everyone tries to do with Bryce Young. And this is no way to besmirch DJ Shockley because I think that he is a fantastic college football player. But there's no denying that his career path doesn't add up to what Cam Newton was. Cam Newton is on the Mount Rushmore of college quarterbacks, I think. My point in saying this is that there are so many respectable, talented quarterbacks that you can point out and say, hey, this player reminds me of this player, without it being the most egregious take of, oh my God, this is the idea of every time there's a point guard or a guard in the NBA that's coming up and they've got a gritty attitude. Oh, that's Kobe right there. That's Michael Jordan. And everyone looks at you and goes, no, the hell it isn't. Just because he has a handful of traits, like there's so many nuances that made those players so great and made them what they are. And I understand that no one's saying that, hey, this player reminds me of DJ Shockley. That's not going to get the headlines. That's not going to be, a sexy take to give. But at the same point, can we stop trying to just pick a handful of traits and go, oh, this reminds me of one of the greatest players to play this sport?
Oh, you know what? I have a solution for this. And I have to get a little nerdy to do this, but it's the ultimate solution in my opinion. You know about the AP style book.
Of course.
Okay, so the AP style book, for those that did not go to journalism school or who do not know what this is, the AP style book is the complete guideline of things that you can and cannot do when writing an AP style. I mean, you can find it, you can search up anything you want. It gives you all the rules of what you should capitalize, what you should not do, put a comma here, all that stuff. We need an AP style book of comps and sports, and we need a list of players that you are not allowed to compare players to. And so you would just have a list of athletes for all sports. You'd have a football section. You'd have a baseball section. You'd have a basketball, like all soccer, whatever. And it would be, you are not allowed to compare this player to Cam Newton because this. You cannot compare this player to LeBron James because of this. You cannot compare somebody to Barry Bonds because of this. Like, we just have these anomalies in sports that, and it's so weird because, like I said, I think in the moment we all kind of realize probably never going to see another player like that.
Yes.
But then we get so far detached from that it's, well, we're ready for the next one. Wait, when's the next Cam Newton going to be here? Because that was such a fun time to watch him play football. I need another one. Well, this Bryce Underwood guy kind of looks like him. Maybe he's the next one. I think we need an AP style book of sports comparisons that say, no, you're not allowed to do that.
And not only that, I'll even expound upon this. You tell them no, but then you offer, hey, here's 15 to 20 names that also fit your traits that you're looking for. That aren't such an egregious take that make you look like a casual. And again, I'm not accusing David Pollock of this, but when you say, oh, player X reminds me of Cam Newton, I've heard blank reminds me of Cam Newton 20 times in my life. None of them have ended up being Cam Newton.
No.
DJ Lagway wasn't Cam Newton. Joe Milton wasn't Cam Newton. There's a handful of these. That's just off the top of my head. This happens every few years where, this player reminds me of another generational player that we only see once in a lifetime. Maybe not. Let's give them some options of, hey, I think this player reminds me of Cam Newton. In reality, it's more like, okay, here are the 5 or 10 players that actually I could compare them to and make fair comparisons.
And if we really wanted to deep dive this, I like this name from the chat. Where did it go? Comparing Athletes for Dummies books. That's a great, that's essentially what this is. We could even break this down to certain programs and organizations. So like if you go into the Georgia section for comparing players, you are not allowed to compare anybody to Brock Bowers. You are not allowed to compare anybody to Todd Gurley or Herschel Walker or even Nick Chubb if you want to. Those are no-nos. But I also understand what you're trying to do when you make comps, because you got to have some flash to it. You got to get something. You got to say something that grabs everybody's attention. And so saying, hey, Bryce Underwood, he kind of reminds me of DJ Shockley. To Georgia fans, if you were to tell a Georgia fan, hey, this quarterback reminds me of DJ Shockley, they're elated. They're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I can't wait to see that. But if you told a Michigan fan, hey, Bryce Underwood reminds me of DJ Shockley, their first inclination is probably, who the hell is DJ Shockley? No offense to DJ Shockley, but that's just the case probably,
And by the way, no one talks about how much of a disservice this does to the players, because now Bryce Underwood has to go out and look like Cam Newton and play like Cam Newton and will forever be compared to Cam Newton. If he does not fall short of that because maybe the threshold of his game does not actually lead up to that, he is labeled as a bust. If Jeremiah Smith does not come out and look like Julio Jones in the NFL, he is going to be labeled as a bust. He could be a solid 900-yard receiver for 15 years in the league. He'll be labeled as a disappointment because of that's how now, whether you want to say that those are warranted or not, those comparisons are fair, that's another story. But my point is, when you do this and you say, hey, this player reminds me of a legend, they have to become that legend. If not, they're failures. It's not fair to the players.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So maybe I'll get to work on that. Maybe I'll construct my own sports comparisons for dummies guideline book. And I don't know. I'll just put it on the internet and people can use it.
No, dude, sell it and publish it.
Ooh, there we go.
Get a bag, dude. Then we can retire.
I have been thinking about releasing my first book. I just don't know what. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the one. Okay. Might have stumbled into something there. Well, we also have stumbled in now to Kirby's top 5 of the week. Some may dread it. Some may look forward to it. You won't know until you see the topic.
Everyone wants to say this is rage bait, and it's not. These are my takes. I stand by all of them. Now, sometimes something falls through the cracks and the audience corrects me, but this week I feel like we have a fairly agreeable take or a topic that people could say, you know what, this is about as subjective as it gets. It's food-related.
Ooh,
so
I do like food.
This time of year, things are getting warmer. These are particularly much better. I'm giving my top 5 fruits this week, Jay. Well, starting with number 5, we have strawberries.
Oh, I do like strawberries.
Typical Now, again, Tom Brady, this would not be on his list. However,
what'd you say?
Tom Brady would not have these on his list.
Not a strawberry fan, huh?
Oh, you haven't read the TB12 method?
No.
Strawberries are a no-no on that.
Why?
Something with they make you old or something, like inflammation. I don't know. He's Tom Brady.
Don't tell my wife that, because pregnancy has resulted in her loving strawberries. Now, she loved strawberries beforehand, but strawberries have been a mainstay in the fridge lately, and it's resulted in me eating a lot of strawberries as well. So I don't like hearing that, but they're a really good fruit.
Dude, according to chat earlier this week, you are looking inflamed. Which, by the way, what's up with that? Why are we body shaming JWill?
Apparently, he didn't mean anything by it, but anytime you tell somebody, hey, you got to cut that weight off, it's, whoa.
Didn't mean anything.
Hey, I know. Hey, I know. Maybe not as slim as I used to be, but I wouldn't say that it's like, oh my gosh, that dude needs to get on the treadmill.
All right, well, we're moving on to number 4, watermelon.
Oh, watermelon.
Now, watermelon is a very unique situation here because it's at the best, at its peak, it is untouchable. But the problem is there's so many factors that have to go into watermelon being perfect. It has to be a hot, sunny day. It has to be in the summer. The watermelon has to be perfectly ripe. You have to be outdoors for it to hit different. You can't just casually pick up and say, all right, I want some watermelon, and it hits the same. So watermelon at its peak, untouchable, but the peaks aren't as frequent.
Can I say, though, that one thing I did not like growing up is, I'm a huge fan of, been in the pool all day, someone cuts up some slices of watermelon and you eat it after you get out of the pool. It hits. But one thing I never liked is, like playing sports afterwards, there was the occasional, hey, we brought you guys some watermelon. I hated when the watermelon was warm.
Yeah, no,
I did not like that.
Room temperature watermelon is not good.
It's not really quenching my thirst right now after playing a baseball game outside in July in the state of Georgia. Like,
Agreed.
I need some cold, crisp watermelon.
That's why it's a little lower on this list. Number 3, we have bananas. I love bananas. Now, some people don't like bananas. I know the whole mushy banana thing grosses people out. A good banana, dude, delicious.
Bananas are like, I don't know. Very rarely do I just eat a banana by itself, but in a smoothie, love bananas. One of my favorite ways to eat a banana is just spread some peanut butter on it.
Oh, dude, bananas and peanut butter is a delicacy.
I used to eat those all the time.
Delicious. Moving on to number 2, we have grapes. Grapes is kind of an odd one, but frozen grapes, dude, unbeatable.
Green grapes or the red grapes?
Honestly, both.
They have to be crunchy. I hate a mushy grape.
Mushy grapes are not good, and that's why they're not my number 1, because you do get some rotten ones.
I much prefer the green grapes, if I'm being honest. I like things a little tart. Like, that's just my I like sour things and things like that. So I like the green grapes a little bit more. I will say, an abomination to the grape world is the cotton candy grapes.
Really?
Not a fan. Not a fan.
I like them. The added sweetness.
Don't like it.
I don't like how, like, every time I take a bite, I know I'm playing God. Because there's no way that the Lord created such a genetically modified fruit. But
purple grapes, red grapes, whatever you want to call them, like, I think they look both at times. I could say you could find purple grapes, some that look more red, some that look more purple.
That's fine. Before we get to our number 1, we'll hit some honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1 goes to peaches.
That had to be on here considering the state that we're in.
Considering the state we're in, delicious fruit. Again, one of these more seasonal, you only have a short window of time when they're good. Number 2 honorable mention, pineapples.
Oh.
I don't love pineapple, but I enjoy it, and it's a very good accent.
This might be my favorite fruit, if I'm being honest. Because if I'm taking all of these fruits at their peak value, like in pristine condition, a good pineapple, it's undefeated in my opinion.
That's fair. I will say pineapple is the most visually pleasing fruit to look at.
Okay.
The geometric shapes that it has and the way you look like when it cuts up, I do like that.
Pineapples are very hit or miss though, because you could get some that are a little they're not as soft, or they're not as juicy. So and they're a pain to cut too. Like the accessibility to getting a pineapple, not the easiest thing, but yeah, man, I love pineapple.
Definitely worth the honorable mention. The final honorable mention before our number 1 pick, cantaloupe. I would prefer cantaloupes to watermelon, actually. I don't know
really.
Why. I just like cantaloupe a little bit more. I like the sweetness of it. I like the texture, not as watery. So I enjoy cantaloupe, but you also kind of run into the similar situation. If it's not perfectly ripe, not great.
I do like cantaloupe. Are you a fan of honeydew?
I do like honeydew, but honeydew is like the third option. Like, all right, there's no watermelon or cantaloupe. I guess I'll eat the honeydew now.
Cantaloupe is an underrated fruit. I will say that. We ate a lot of it at my house growing up.
Definitely worthy of the honorable mention. And without further ado, the number 1 best fruit in my top 5. I feel like you can kind of do deductive reasoning to name it at this point. It is apples. There is nothing better than when you bite into a Honeycrisp apple, a big, juicy Honeycrisp apple, dude. Nothing better. No fruit. It's unmatched. It's the Michael Jordan of fruits, in my opinion.
I will say one thing I do appreciate about apples is the versatility of them, and there's an apple for everybody. Like if you're a mushy apple person, there's one of those. If you like a hard, crunchy apple, there's one of those. If you want something a little more tart, there's Granny Smith apples. There's a variety of apples to where you could probably appease everybody. Probably not my favorite fruit, but one of the most versatile fruits.
And not just from the versatility of, there's multiple genres of this apple. There's apple pie. There's apple-flavored candies. Like, apple fits well with anything. Like, you can't necessarily say it for pineapple. Like, I made pineapple pie, or there's a pineapple dessert. Like, I'm good, man.
I'm glad Chad agrees with me, because a good Granny Smith apple, it hits, man.
I loved Granny Smiths growing up, but now I'm a Honeycrisp guy. I've changed my allegiance.
Apples are also, we're willing enough to name one after me as well. There are Jonathan apples, believe it or not.
I've never had a Jonathan apple.
I don't think I've actually had one either, to be honest. I think they're one of the softer apples, so I don't particularly like those.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't like a mushy apple, but are you a keep your apple in the fridge guy?
No. My parents did when I was growing up. So like I did grow up on crisp, cool apples, but nowadays I just leave them in my
I wasn't I wasn't an apple in the fridge guy until I went over to a friend's house when I was a kid, and they kept their apples in the fridge, and I ate one, and I was like, this is a game changer. This is way better cold. So from then on, I've kept my apples in the fridge.
That's fair.
All right. I think that is it. That is Kirby's Top 5. That is also the end of the National Hour. But we got a whole nother show lined up right here on the other side of this intro. We're going to talk that dog. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grab some tape.
We're introducing this for you.
Well, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the final hour of our programming for this week. And normally JWill does the introductions here. He does a great job giving the rundown and you know, laying out what we're going to talk about today. And I'll do that for you as well. We're going to reiterate some of Kirby's comments. We'll hit on the players that need to go from good, really good to great this year. I watched another Georgia football game throwback, and I have some notes on that. And then, of course, we will get to your Discord questions as we always do on every Thursday. So be sure you're firing those off. And if you are not in the Discord, be sure to subscribe to the Patreon. It's Brooks Austin / you know what? Just look up Brooks Austin on Patreon.
Patreon.com/Brooks Austin.
See, you've done that more times than I have. So what he said, to subscribe to the Patreon and get all the cool access to the Discord. It's a really cool community over there. But before we do that, JWill, from my understanding is that you are just a few months away from entering into fatherhood.
Yeah, due date is set for June 15th.
June 15th. That is a fantastic due date. I'm super excited for you and your lovely wife, Morgan, to experience bringing life into this world. And from what I understand, you guys have not necessarily fully decided on a name, or you're still workshopping some names.
Yeah, we think we maybe have a couple of names that we're kind of finalizing, but have not actually officially set a name. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that's perfect. And from my understanding, both of this child's parents will be graduates from the University of Georgia.
Correct.
Big Bulldog fans here. I love that as well. So I figured I would assist you all in creating some names for your soon-to-be daughter. So these are all Georgia adjacent.
Okay.
Starting with name number 1, Georgia. What do you think about?
You know, Gunnar Stockton, I believe his sister's name is Georgia. I do like me some Gunnar Stockton. Some people I say I might resemble a little Gunnar Stockton, you know, in the voice a little bit. Okay, not a bad one.
All right, we'll keep that on the list. How about Girly?
Just name your girl Girly.
Yeah, it's a girly.
Spell it like Girly.
You have to.
I do have a friend that named their dog Girly, so I don't know how I'm feeling about this.
My cousin named her dog Girly as well.
Yeah, so okay.
All right, we'll cross off. How about Athena? Ooh. Athens, Georgia. You got the Greek vibe. You look like you got some Greek in you.
The only thing that I would think about every time I called my daughter Athena is the Creature Comforts beer Athena, which is one of my favorites.
Is that not the best of both worlds? The two things you love most in this world, your daughter and beer?
I'm here for it. I'm on board. I wonder if Morgan is listening to this right now, and if so, I'd like to know her takes on this. But all right, that's a better one than Girly. I'll give you that one.
We'll have another one. How about Michelle? Spelled like Sony Michelle, though. So when you say, what's your daughter Michelle named after? The Georgia running back, Sony Michelle.
Okay. All
right, we'll keep that one off the side. Keely, like Keely Ringo. It's a unique name, right?
It is unique. So I don't know if I'm here for that, but okay. That's a solid option.
Hear me out. Bailey. For Champ and Boss Bailey. You can nickname her Champ or Boss.
Okay. You know, if you were doing one of those things where you were waiting to find out the gender, this would be a perfect option because you can name a boy Bailey. You could also name a girl Bailey.
It is a very versatile name. So is Jordan. for Jordan Davis.
Okay. I was trying to place Jordan. Okay, now I figured it out. Okay.
How about an AJ?
AJ?
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about naming my daughter AJ.
All right, we'll mark that one off the list. That's fine. How about Stacy for offensive line coach Stacy Searles?
Okay. I don't mind that one. Stacy.
Name your daughter after Stacy Searles?
Although then a lot of people would probably think, did you really name your daughter after the song?
That is true. All right.
Stacy's mom. Hey, Morgan, I don't know how you'd feel about that one, okay?
This one's my favorite. Kirby.
I do know a girl named Kirby.
That's my girlfriend's mom's name.
She was not named after Kirby Smart, I wouldn't think.
Well, your daughter would be in this scenario.
Okay.
Or, maybe me. All right, I figured, those wouldn't be some heavy hitters, so I have a more creative list of names for you here.
You put a lot of effort into this.
I have, dude. I really want to make sure that I'm involved in the naming of your child. It's very important to me. How about this one? 2015 Jake Gaines.
That's the full name.
That's what you'd have to call it.
2015 Jake
Now,
Gaines.
you might have to write really small on the birth certificate, and the driver's license might be a little longer than most, but that name sticks out to me, I think. This is our daughter, 2015 Jake Gaines.
That sounds like some crap Elon Musk would name his kid. He named his son like AE15-05, something like that. I don't know. We're getting a little
all right.
there.
How about this one? We're all George Pickens fans on the show. How about Pickenzie? That's a good one, dude.
That one is at least a little more acceptable than 2015 Jake Gaines.
All right. Here's another one. You said you Gunnar Stockton fans on the show. Mm-hmm. How about Gunnarina? You know what? I heard that one out loud, and we're not going to go with that one, actually. I'm marking that one off for us, JWill. It sounded a lot better in my head, and I said, how can I make the name Gunnar feminine? Gunnarina is not the way to go.
You saying it a second time, I just picked off.
Yeah, no.
Up on what that sounds like.
Do not name your daughter that one. That's a bad name.
Don't name any child Gunnaria, please.
Gunnarina.
Not
there's an N at the end. It's very important.
Okay.
All right. This one I've saved for towards the end because it's my favorite, and I think that this is what you end up naming your daughter. How about Shakliana?
Oh, this one might be it. I will say, and I want to say this too, since we're on this topic. I'm just a little jealous that I did not get DJ Shockley for my commencement speech when I graduated. Dude. Just a little. The graduation itself was great, no complaints there. But DJ Shockley being the one that gave the speech would have made it 10 times better.
Dude, Shakliana Williams, that's a name, dude.
Boy, man.
All right, this is my last one. So if you aren't in love with any of these ones, you're gonna have to stick with this one. Name your daughter Uga 12.
Oh, okay. So this one still involves a number. It's not directly tied to my lineage or anything like that.
Well, but there's 11. We're on the 11th Uga, right? They would have to skip 12 though, because there already is one.
Oh.
She's like, this is my daughter Uga 12.
This is. I'd have to send a letter to UGA being like, hey, you can't use UGA 12 because it's already taken.
When they retire UGA 11, you have to send a cease and desist to the university. You could trademark that name.
Could.
Be like, you can't name the mascot UGA 12. You got to call it something else. This is my daughter's name, unfortunately.
Now, other than you have put a lot of thought into this. Like when you said and I had no idea, by the way, of what this segment was. All Kirby did was text me today saying, I'm opening the local hour. That's all I knew about it. Had no idea what the actual segment was. Had no idea that it was going to be attempts at naming my child. But you put a lot of thought into that. I'll give you credit there. And I will say this. If we had a boy this time, I'm pretty sure we were going to name them.
Kirby?
No, we were going to name them after a Georgia football player. But I won't say which one. But we were close.
Herschel? All right, just guessing.
Massaquoi.
Oh, Muhammad Massaquoi is going to get a lot of love on tonight's show.
Oh, yeah?
So that's all the names I had for you. So whenever you give birth to Shakliana, insert middle name Williams, just know that I had something to do with that naming process.
Okay.
And by the way, even if you don't go with Shakliana, I am going to call her that.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Not
you know
bad.
what? Actually, I've changed my mind. If you're in the chat right now, whoever super chubs the most with their name will be what Jonathan Williams names his daughter. No ifs, ands, or buts.
We're only accepting offers of $1,000 or more.
So there you go.
That's what it takes to name my child. So
I'm glad that our community, our familia, could be a part of naming your daughter. It's been an honor. So
well, thank you for the attempts. We'll put them in consideration. I will run them by Morgan later tonight and say, hey, I know we've already dwindled down the list and we put a lot of thought into this and we're ready to pick a name. Well, we got to open it back up because we got a whole bunch of more submissions of what this name could be and the potential of it.
Yeah, I mean, Shakliana is a game changer.
All right. You were talking about Muhammad Massaquoi.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to transition right into that.
This is a great time to transition in that. Let me get my notes out on this. So it's kind of become an off-season tradition. It's been an off-season tradition for me for many, many years now that when you enter the lull of the college football season and there's just nothing on, I will go back and rewatch some old Georgia football games just to remember things and feel something. And this isn't the normal games you'd watch. These are the more nuanced games that you kind of forget about. So this week, I watched the 2005 Georgia versus Tennessee game. DJ Shockley, who you'll be naming your daughter after, was a quarterback of this game. Georgia ended up winning, I think, something like 27-14. A lot of names that we saw and a lot of Georgia greats played in this game, including Muhammad Massaquoi. So some of the notes I have from, and by the way, I loved this because I watch these on YouTube, and typically it's, the segmented games or it's just the plays or they'll skip commercial breaks. This is the full 4-hour broadcast, commercials and everything. So I'm watching commercials from 2005 in between the action. So I very, very much enjoyed that. So actually I have some notes on the old commercials just from how much
the
things have
commercials
changed.
itself.
Would you like to guess the official sponsor of the NCAA in 2005?
Ooh, Sprint.
That's a fantastic guess. And it's Sprint adjacent, Pontiac.
Oh.
Company that no longer exists. The premier sponsor for the NCAA in 2005. There were like 5 commercials.
I do remember Sprint being a huge sponsor, though, I feel like at the time.
Yeah. Do you remember Vonage?
Yes. Dude, I do remember Vonage.
Saw some Vonage commercials. Here's this. It's still a very prominent thing in the world, but the Chrysler 300, the MSRP on that car in 2005 was $24,000. Bro, I could buy a Chrysler 300 right now in 2005. So either way.
How times have changed.
Oh, how times have changed indeed. There was some commercial for like a luxury airliner that had really weird commercials. That company's obviously not in business. It's like AirTran or something. So we're getting bogged down with commercials. That was my notes from that. First note I have of this. I miss the CBS intro, dude.
Oh, man.
Anytime it hits.
Thank you.
Anytime it hits, my ears just ring, and it just puts a smile on my face. And especially when the montage of old highlights is playing. It's the perfect way to begin a game. Those CBS games just had aura to them.
They sure did, dude.
And I know that's an overused word.
I have vivid memories of sitting in my parents' backyard, and this is like right around the time where surround sound was a huge thing, and we found a way to bring speakers outside.
Yes.
Hearing the CBS intro rattle the woods behind us when the Georgia game is about to start. Oh my gosh. And I've already given my 2 cents on how we need to bring back the little sound effect when there was a touchdown in the old CBS games. Everybody knows the sound I'm talking about. I cannot replicate it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. Every time I watch these old games, I'm like, that was incredible. It was everything about it was perfect.
And it was when you had subwoofers in your house and that thud, dude. Yes. So the CBS intro, RIP. On to the game. A little interesting fact about this game. It took place in 2005. It was around Hurricane Katrina. This game was Tennessee's 3rd contest in 13 days.
How?
They played LSU on a Monday. They played Ole Miss on a Saturday, and then they played Georgia the next Saturday. So they had played 3 college football games in 13 days, which is unheard of nowadays. Obviously, with Hurricane Katrina, LSU was displaced. They had to play that team on a Monday, so just insane. Let me read you just to illustrate how much college football has changed from an age standpoint. We talk about it now. Lots of true freshmen, a lot of sophomores, a lot of young players playing more than ever. There's going to be starting quarterbacks that are 17, 18 years old all around the league today. Here's the starting lineup for Georgia's offense, and I'm just going to give you the age. I'm not going to give you their position, their name, nothing.
Okay.
Junior, senior, sophomore, freshman, which was Sean Chappis, the fullback. Doesn't really count. Senior, junior, senior. It's all juniors and seniors starting. Here's
the one underclassman was a fullback?
Yes. And a sophomore running back, which was, I cannot remember the name right now. He wore number 28. I'm blanking on it. I'm sorry. Tennessee's defensive lineup: senior, junior, senior, 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 junior, sophomore, junior, senior. It's all juniors and seniors playing 20 years ago, whereas nowadays you've got 17-year-olds starting. It's insane how much just the age of college football players has changed.
Was it Craig Lumpkin?
No, it was not Craig Lumpkin.
That's the only one I could think of that wore that number.
Craig Lumpkin wore number 6. Either way, on to the game.
Google lied to me.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason he wore that number.
Don't listen to Google, bro. Danny Ware.
Idiots.
Thank you, 910. It was Danny Ware. He was a sophomore in this game, had a very good game. On to the broadcasters as a whole. Vern Lundquist, dude. This is a classic Vern Lundquist game. First play of the game is a end around to a freshman, Muhammad Massaquoi, who we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, man.
And Vern Lundquist has very clearly never been briefed on how to pronounce his name. And he goes, and it's the freshman, Muhammad, and you can tell he clearly looks at his notes, Muhammad Massaquoi. So for the first 6 drives of the game until the producer obviously gets in his ear, Muhammad Massaquoi's name is Muhammad Massaquoi. It's just the peak nuances of Vern Lundquist.
Vern was, I enjoyed Vern for the most part up until probably the end of his career, I would say. Then things were a little touch and go with how great he was at his job, I would say. But still does a phenomenal job with the Masters. But he was always known to butcher names. I remember that very vividly. Now, Muhammad Massaquoi, not the easiest of names.
It's a butcherable name.
It is a very butcherable name, but there were multiple instances where I can remember listening to him call games. It's like, that is definitely not how you say his name, Vern. Or that is definitely not that player, but you called him that anyways.
And especially when Georgia would be losing and like they mess it up, like, get it right. What the heck? I hate him.
Turn it off.
This happened a lot, so I fully understand what you're saying here. Greg Blue was an absolute menace all during his time at Georgia, and in this game, he had like 13 tackles. DeMario Minter, this Georgia defense, that unit was so underrated, I feel like, and doesn't get talked about enough. Now, obviously, it's 20 years removed. It's hard to talk about the legendary stats, but guys like DeMario Minter, Quentin Moses, Greg Blue, so many names on there. You're like, damn, there were some dudes on that defense. So, absolutely that. Leonard Pope. I always heard the legends of Leonard Pope and how much of a problem he was. Dude. Leonard Pope took over this game for Georgia's offense. Anytime Shock was in a situation where he needed to get out, he was the escape valve. Leonard Pope had some incredible plays. He dislocated a man's hip in this football game. Ooh. There's literally a 20-minute break in the action because Leonard Pope gets an out route and the guy that tries to tackle him is on his knees. And Leonard Pope impacts so much force that he dislocates his left hip.
Did it look as gruesome as I'm envisioning that?
No, it didn't look bad at all, actually. Like, you just, see him, bend over, and then he's on the ground for 20 minutes.
My leg broke.
Yeah, no, literally like that. On to Shock. I forgot how elusive he was. Mm-hmm. I always kind of envisioned him as he's the bulldozer, kind of run-through tackles type guy, which he does do that. He was a lot more elusive than I remember. Also had some ball security issues, though. Had 2 turnovers in the second half. One was virtually a pick 6. Had a fumble inside the red zone. Was not Shock's best performance, but you know what? They got the job done with a win. This is my ultimate take in this game, though, dude. And it made me realize something that made me very sad. It's that we didn't get to grow up during the peak of the Larry Munson era. We caught the tail end of it. Now, I vividly remember listening to him in the car and listening to the way he called games and all those things. But there is a towards the back end in the second half, Thomas Flowers returns a punt for a touchdown. Puts Georgia up, kind of seals the deal for it. It's called the play of the game. And you know how at the end of every CBS game, they do the play of the game, they show the highlight, and they give you the local broadcast. It was a Larry Munson call that I have never heard before. I don't remember hearing because, growing up, you hear things, you hear the voice, but you don't really savor the calls. It was so cool to hear Larry Munson give a call that I've never heard before. For a moment, that's not legendary. Like, obviously, you've heard hobnail boot, sugar falling from the sky, all of the big calls. But just calling a normal Saturday game when having him hear that much excitement, man.
Yeah, I unfortunately, my childhood was not inundated with as much Larry Munson as I wish it could have been. But I will say 2 things. One, My parents did a really good job of making sure I knew who Larry Munson was. And in fact, I can remember my dad talking about him so much that as a kid, I would go on. This is like at the beginning of YouTube as well. Like when it's first starting up, like I would go and try and find Larry Munson clips and just listen to them because I just wanted to know about him. I wanted to listen to him and hear about this legendary figure that everybody was talking about. And the other thing, there was multiple games that I can remember listening to Larry Munson call because this was also at a time where not every single game was on TV, like national TV, and sometimes that was your best option. One time when my family was camping, I remember listening to Larry Munson call a Georgia-Kentucky game. I remember sitting in my house listening to the radio of the Georgia versus Colorado game because that was the only option that we had. And another time when we were on a road trip, we were listening to Larry Munson call, I believe it was Georgia versus FAU, I want to say, one of those games. I very clearly remember those games.
It's one of my. It's so fun how everyone like who grew up listening to Larry Munson has a Larry Munson story. So, just a legendary figure that seeing that it was like a nice surprise of at the end because you're watching a game you don't expect to hear anything from Larry Munson and then it's wait, do you remember in 2020? This is obviously when peak COVID's going on and everyone's at home. It's like this sucks. Some radio station did a thing where every day or a Saturday. They would broadcast a full Georgia game, and it would just be the Larry Munson call. No, I don't remember Dude, this. I would drive around for like 3 hours. Just like, I got to get out of the house and just listen to Larry Munson call a Georgia game. I was like, this is incredible.
One thing I do remember is when Georgia won the 2021 national title, a fan synced up the Keely Ringo play to Larry Munson, like somehow configured it to where Larry Munson was giving the call. It was crazy.
I have seen that, yeah.
It was one of the one of the best things about the internet is there's people that can figure out how to do those types of things. One of the coolest things ever. I thought that was really awesome. But yeah, I despite the fact that I didn't get to listen to Larry Munson as much as other Georgia fans, I still know enough about him and have enough memories about him to really understand gosh, that guy truly was one of the best.
So yeah, those are the notes I have from the 2005 Georgia versus Tennessee matchup. If anyone has suggestions for games for me to watch, I mean, I've probably watched the majority of them all.
Yeah, I know people have been asking where they can watch the Georgia versus Arkansas game that we mentioned the other day.
I'm so glad that people want to see that. I can't find it anywhere.
It's nowhere to be found. And look, I even did the thing where I asked ChatGPT if they could find it for me, and they said they couldn't find it either. But it did say that oftentimes games are eventually taken off of YouTube or something like that because of the rights and everything. So I would just say keep searching every day, and maybe hopefully someone listening to this will be a G and upload it to YouTube or something like that. Or better yet, put it as an unlisted video on your YouTube account and drop the link in Discord.
Yes, please.
There we go. Incredible. Now we're talking. If somebody can figure out a way to do that,
Patreon.
If we can figure out a way to do that, that's what we need to be doing.
Where would you like to go next, JWill?
Let's get into some real subjects about the current state of Georgia football. A little bit of projection, if you will, but also some realism about the football team. So the other day I wrote an article and I titled it Georgia Players That Need to Go From Being Really Good to Great This Upcoming Season. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's players that are already really good, but if Georgia wants to achieve winning a national title this year or being better than they were last year, I think that these are the players that are going to have to take that next step in being even better than they already are. And we've talked about this a little bit with some football players, but I've got a list. I believe you have a list as well.
Yes, I do.
So, for example, the first name I had on this list, Chris Cole. Yeah. This is a guy that everybody knows the expectations around this guy. Already a really good football player. We knew that the moment that he stepped foot on the field as a true freshman. We watched him against Texas on the road. We knew the abilities of this guy. Thought maybe the sophomore season would be the year where we just see everything get put together. But I think the situations that he was kind of forced into a little bit with having to rush the passer, having to be a coverage linebacker, and also just being your standard inside linebacker, I think it was a lot to take in for a guy only playing his second year and really his first full year as an SEC linebacker to where it just didn't live up maybe to the potential that we hoped it would. I think in his third year, though, we know this is a thing with Georgia linebackers with Glenn Schumann of once you get to year 3, that's when things really pop off. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for Chris Cole, but one of these guys he's really good right now, but if he turns into a great player, who knows what this defense could be.
Yeah, and I think that it's it's promising to know that watching that 2025 season, there's a lot of meat left on the bone from Chris Cole, just from a standpoint of, he could have made that play. He was in the position to make that play. He has to start making those plays, and when he does, my God, he'll be a first-round draft pick. So definitely one. I put Drew Bobo as a guy. Drew Bobo was a very solid option at center this year, and he's a fantastic option, and you felt his absence. I think if Drew Bobo can take another step forward this year and become a borderline elite center, a top 5 in the SEC, Georgia's offensive line is going to become very, very scary. And we'll get more onto the pieces surrounding that, but it starts at the center with Drew Bobo.
And maybe that even just is as simple as we get a healthy Drew Bobo this year. Like we get to see Drew Bobo for the entire season, because we have yet to see an entire season with him as a starting center. Came close last year. He was a spot player the year before that behind Jared Wilson. Like, if we can get a full season of Drew Bobo, I think it'll be really good. I mean, he's already proven that he is a really good center. So that's a good option, because typically when you think of this segment, Drew Bobo, no offense to him, probably not the player that you're thinking of. He didn't make my list, but I'm glad you gave him his flowers right there. This is the one that chat's already talking about. This is one that we have already talked about on this show that we would like to see make a step forward, and it's KJ Bolden.
Yep.
And I'm like, KJ is aware of this, I'm sure, too. Of you talked about how Chris Cole left some money on the field a little bit last year. KJ Bolden also left some money on the field. But I want to point this out, too. Like how I talked about with Chris, how it seemed like maybe he had to take on a lot of different things last year, and that maybe stunted some of his growth, or like how quickly we could have seen some of his growth as an inside linebacker last year. I think you kind of saw that with KJ a little bit last year, because you have to remember, KJ came in with Dan Jackson and Malachi Starks as the starters.
Yep.
So when he went out onto the field, you could play as free as you wanted to, probably, because you know that those two guys are going to do their jobs. They're going to take care of business. They're going to do their assignment. I can play a little more freely. And then he goes into his second year, and the entire conversation is who's starting next to KJ Bolden. And it's a bunch of guys that haven't really played. Like Zion Branch hadn't played a lot at USC due to injury. Ja'Cory Thomas had just been waiting for his turn up until that point last year. Kyron Jones was a guy that we had seen a little bit of, but not a whole lot of, to where there's this added pressure now where I can't play as free because I have to really make sure that everybody else is where they need to be and that I'm doing my job while also making sure they're doing their job. I think you kind of saw a similar thing where he couldn't, and I think KJ playing freely is when he's at his best, because he is just one of these playmakers,
Sure.
But it just kind of hindered his ability a little bit.
That's such an interesting take, and I fully agree with it in that KJ Bolden probably was handicapped on his own accord and hamstringed simply because of, hey, I'm the veteran presence in this room right now. I need to be the one that makes sure I'm doing everything right. And when you have that mental block right away, you're already going to stop yourself from being as aggressive and trying to make as many plays. Now, there are some things that are just fundamentals. Dropping interceptions is, that's not hindering yourself at all. I think you're right.
And the added aspect of this, and I don't know that this KJ's the type of guy where this really would affect him. At least his personality doesn't strike me as that, but maybe it does. Where, I mean, even when he's starting, or not starting, but when he's getting a lot of playing time as a true freshman, the attention is still on Malachi Starks. Like, everybody's talking and looking at Malachi Starks because he's a known commodity. This is a guy that's been starting for the last 3 years. And then all of a sudden, the very next year, I mean, for the entire secondary, in that fact, other than maybe Dalen Everett, for the entire secondary, everybody's looking at KJ Bolden because they're expecting him to be this great football player. And he is a really good football player already. But there's some greatness in him, and it needs to be achieved this year, in my opinion.
For sure, I agree. Another player I have on my list for players that probably need to take a step forward, and I'm counting them as one. I don't care. It's Don Juan.
Don Juan.
Don Juan, that's Donald Glover.
Donnie Glover.
I know, I did it on purpose. Donnie Glover. It's Danny Glover. No, it's Donnie Glover and Juan Gasson. Those two are going to be basically joined at the hip this year at the offensive line. I think if those two, you compare that and you combine that with Drew Bobo taking a step forward and these two players taking a step forward, and then Ernest Green taking another step forward, you have four not only extremely solid options on your offensive line, you have four borderline elite offensive linemen. With a guard position, you have plenty of talent to figure it out at. I think that if those two, if Don Juan can take a step forward as well as Drew Bobo, Georgia might win the Moore Award, which I know that's a sore subject around here, but
this player is on my list, and I know that you could say it for both of them, but I have this player on this list specifically for how he was advertised coming out of high school, what the expectations were, and the fact that this is probably your last year with him before he goes to the NFL. Ellis Robinson.
Ooh, I like that one. I think, and I also have DeMello on my list as well. So
DeMello could also be put on this list as well.
We can kind of do this as a 1-2 because I think they're both in need of taking another step forward. They were great last year. They got better as the season went on.
And that's what I was going to say is, and Ellis showed greatness at the end of last season. Like that was the last 5 games, I would say, of the season. That guy played his best ball ever since he got to Georgia. The plays that he was making, the interception against Georgia Tech, he had some really good plays against Ole Miss. Like that dude locked it in multiple times last year, and it was like, okay, this is the greatness that we were expecting for someone that was ranked as the number 1 player in the country in his recruiting class. Like this is what you expect that corner to look like. So we've seen it. I just need him now to build upon that and do it for an entire season because you don't have one of these veterans, I would say, in the cornerback room at this very moment. Like you don't have the guy that's just been there for the last 2 seasons and now he's still there and we're just waiting on one of the younger guys to step up. It's Ellis and DeMello who have arrived at the same time and were splitting reps last year to where now both of those guys are now the known commodities in the room, but they're still not really veterans, I would say. They're still pretty young players despite the fact that they're both draft eligible now.
They're going to be treated as veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have the most starting experience in that room. They'll have the most game experience. They'll be the oldest. So they're veterans at this point. Unfortunately,
yeah, by default they are.
Yeah, unfortunately their timeline's been so progressed, but that's just the way college football is. Like by the time you get about 10 starts under your belt, you're a veteran. So they are. The last player on my list is, I think, the definition of a player who's, hey, you're really good for us. If you could unlock another level and take another step forward, it would be great. Xavier McLeod. That is, I think that with you losing Christian Miller in the interior offensive or defensive line this year, you need that enforcer. You need that game wrecker. There's not like a name that's kind of circled of, oh, this is who it'll be once this player leaves, as it was from 21 in a few years. If Xavier McLeod can take another step forward in his game and become a game wrecker, Georgia's going to be very good on defense.
I think he's been such an underrated player for Georgia.
He has.
I understand why, because Christian Miller, like you just mentioned, has been the spotlight in that room. And then even last year, even with Christian there, then Elijah Griffin is appearing on the scene, and everybody's kind of paying attention to that. Meanwhile, number 94, and I would put him and Josh Horton in the same category here of they've just been underrated. Like I thought both of them played so well for Georgia last year. Like maybe they're not making all the flash plays that Christian or Elijah are, or Gabe or Contavious, but those two players played really well for Georgia. And I think that, maybe there is a next step for Xavier, and he's going to have to probably take that because he's the old head in the room right now. And like Jordan Hall, he's also an old head at this point, but he's rehabbing from injury.
Yep.
He's battled injuries throughout his career. And then it's a bunch of young guys. So it is necessary that he takes one of those steps. Nate Frazier's next on my list, just because I know it's there. I just know for a fact that it's there. And I think why is because freshman year was just kind of a little wonky because the Clemson game, you're him now. Like you have to come start for us because Trevor Etienne he's not available, so you have to start. So we get this blazing start to our career, and then things teeter off a little bit. We don't see as much Nate Frazier over like the next 5 weeks, and then you see a little bit more of him at the end of the season. And then you come into this past year, and we have a couple fumbles and kind of stunts our growth a little bit, probably stunts our confidence just a tad, to the point where our main focus is we're going to hold on to the ball and we're going to get positive yards. And he was great at that. But I think when Nate is just fully comfortable like he will be this year, and he has all of the confidence in the world like he already does, I think we're going to see the complete version of Nate Frazier, and when that happens, that is a great running back. And so I'm excited to see it. I think we're going to get a really good season from him. I know that he can take that next step to be a great player.
Oh, absolutely. And it is kind of interesting to point out how Nate Frazier has always been available for Georgia, and yet it feels like he's never been consistently the guy in here.
Right.
Like you said, there was a time where Trevor Etienne was getting the ones carries because he was the veteran in that room and he was a new transfer portal, and Nate was a freshman.
Yeah.
And then obviously the fumble thing happened. Like it hasn't been able for Nate to kind of get this consistent just season run of, hey, you're the guy. And it might not be that with him and Chauncey being 1-2 punches here. Like there will be certain situations, but I do think that not having him be on the shelf this year will be so beneficial to his development.
I think we're going to see a really good version of Nate this year.
I'm excited.
I really do. You got any more on your list?
That's all for me.
Okay. This was the only rising sophomore that I put on this list. And it has to do with what people have already said about him. It has to do with the intel that we've heard about him. But for this caliber of player, for people to talk about you like this, I think it's a requirement that we see it this year and we don't have to wait until your junior year to see it. Elias Williams.
Yep.
if this guy is going to be as good as he is advertised right now, and he was great last year, like the signs are there, I understand it. You can see it when he plays. Obviously, his size alone makes him a bit of an anomaly at the position. But Elias Williams, if he is going to be that type of game-changing tight end that we expect him to be, the jump to being really good to great happens this year, in my opinion. Like if this is the type of tight end that we are, it happens in your second season, and we're going to see a lot of him this year. So I think it happens this year, or at least I'm predicting it to happen. We'll see what happens.
Fully agree. You're absolutely right on that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we have some fantastic news before we get into our Discord Q&A.
This news kind of shocked me.
And I think it's kind of gone under the radar just a tad. Maybe it's been known information, but to me, this was the first time that I was hearing it. So as someone that covers the program from it to be new information to me, I only assume that it's new information to you guys as well, and the majority of y'all. G-Day will be streamed on ESPN Plus this year.
Where did you see this?
So this was in a release from UJSports.com, or at least it looked like something from their page. And it's kind of giving a rundown of G-Day and the overall event. And at the very bottom of the page, it says G-Day will be live streamed on ESPN Plus this year.
And this is April Fool's proof? You're sure?
I'm pretty sure. It was put in Discord at least.
So, I mean, if that's the case, that's huge.
Sorry, not UJSports.com. This is GeorgiaDawgs.com. Not to get crossed up there. Let me see if I can actually find it and confirm this for you guys.
But no, if that's the case, that's huge, because I know the big complaint this year was that it feels like the program is kind of nickel and diming you and putting more and more things behind the paywall. And an event that used to be available to everyone is now you have to come to see it, and then you have to pay $10 to see it. So if this is available on ESPN Plus, which I understand not everyone has ESPN Plus, that is still frustrating. But
get the free trial, baby.
Well, yeah, free trial. Create a Gmail. Let me put you on game after that. But yeah, okay. No, let me see. That's excellent news if that's the case.
So maybe it happens when I do this. Okay, not that. I clicked on request tickets. I thought maybe it'd be there, not there. I'm trying to find this for you guys. I really want to confirm it.
If that's the case, that's excellent news. It might be an April Fool's joke.
I really hope it's not. Look. TV, ESPN Plus. It's right here on my screen. Okay, if you go to GeorgiaDawgs.com and then you go to the football section, there's a little blurb that shows the G-Day. It's officially set the date. If you click on that, it says TV, ESPN Plus, Radio, Georgia Bulldogs Sports Network. So there you go.
Which, by the way, Georgia Dogs is the official website.
Yeah, that is it.
Like it's not like a third party. So
I swear, guys, it's not an April Fool's joke. Okay, it's right here in front of me. Okay. I can even post the link in the chat right now. I'll give it to you guys, and so you guys can
it's
see
all right,
JWill.
We believe you. It's okay.
I just don't want people thinking I'm leading them astray, man.
We believe you, man. It's all right.
So good news for you guys. It's going to be streamed. So if you don't go to the game, if you can't make it to the game, you can watch it from your home, and you can stream the game. So that's great news. Just want to bring that to you guys. And now we will get into the questions that are served up from our beloved people over there in Discord. Again, if you want to join the Discord and you want to hop in on these Q&As that we do every Thursday during the local hour, that is patreon.com/Brooks Austin. That automatically gives you access to our Discord as well. And so here we go. Let me scroll up to the top because we've got a lot of people talking about the Diamond Dogs right now. Kirby, they're up 10-2, I believe, against Mississippi State. A top 5 matchup right now. Ooh. Diamond Dogs taking care of business.
Go Dogs, baby.
All right, here we go. First question from 910 Cooper. Worst thing you've ever smelled?
Worst? I don't know if I can tell this story. You know what? Statute of limitations. Sophomore year of high school, I am sitting in the locker room of what we normally have. We have first period weight training, and one of my friends, who I'm not going to name, goes, "Kirby, come over here." And they reach into their backpack, and they pull out 3 fart bombs.
Ooh.
And so we're like, where are we going to put these? So we decide the good place for them to be is the freshman locker room. So as the bell rings and we're transitioning, me and my friends sneak off. And by the way, I don't even think my parents know this story, so they're watching right now, so this is going to be news to them. So we sneak off into the freshman locker room, and we, pop the baggies that you do for a fart bomb and place them accordingly around the locker room in hidden areas, and run off to class. And within 45 minutes, the group chat is blowing up of, dude, they're canceling PE classes. Like the coaches are airing out the hallways. Like every door is open downstairs. So of course, I got to see what's going on. So I'm, as things sneak off, I say I got to go to the bathroom or something, go down to the team room, and the hallway that leads to the locker room smells so damn bad. One of the freshman basketball players is walking out, and you hear him coming down the hall like, he's got a shirt over his face, and his eyes are bloodshot red. Bro, it was the most foul-smelling fart bombs I've ever smelled in my life, and we never got caught.
Your dad hitting the chat with a damn son. It's crushing me right now.
I'm going to get a phone call after this episode. But, yeah, that's the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life.
I think for me it was we were in Europe, and I want to say we were in Italy, and I'm with my wife and her family. And so one thing about Europe is there's not a whole lot of accessibility to public restrooms as there is over here in America.
Oh, they were going on the street?
Well, no. You have to find a business that you can purchase something from to then get access to their bathroom. So we find a little gelato station that's serving up ice cream. All right, we'll get some ice cream and we'll go to the bathroom. So we buy some. And then we say, hey, by the way, where is your bathroom? And they say, oh, it's right back there through that door. So there's a line of people. We're sitting there waiting. And this lady comes out of the bathroom, and she looks at my wife, and she goes, dear, I don't think you want to go in there. And so I'm like, did she just blow up the bathroom or something? What's going on here? The bathroom was like a porcelain floor with a tiny hole cut out. That's it. And you literally stood over it, did your business, and that was it.
Dang, you had to hover?
You had to, yeah, basically. Now, for me, it was nothing. But,
just another day outside.
Yeah, exactly. But for girls, so there's just, residue all over the floor, and it just goes through the floor onto the ground. So everything that's under there, it was horrible. It was one of the worst experiences. I would say that was it.
So, yeah. All right, next question.
All right. Yeah, this comes from MJ82322002! What a username. Your favorite and least favorite thing about Christian Kirby and Brooks, vice versa for Commie Curb.
Oh, wow.
I don't know that I'm going to sit here and look. I don't have an answer for that.
My least favorite thing about Brooks is that he's allowed the nickname Commie Curb to become a thing.
I don't know. I don't know what my least favorite thing would be.
It's all right, JWill. You can be honest, man.
No.
This is a safe space.
We're not going to air things out over a live YouTube show. We're better than that. 910 Cooper says...
So there is something that's your least favorite then?
No, I seriously can't think of one. Of one that's worth mentioning at least. 910 Cooper, looks maxing routine.
I'm honored that 910 thinks either one of us has a looks maxing routine.
I wake up and I go out the door.
Now, I do have a hair routine to try to keep it from falling out.
Yeah, I comb my hair,
it's
but
not going great. But other than that, I don't have a get ready with me type.
All right, some football questions now. King Jester, favorite jersey number for every position group. Now, we don't have to actually do every position group.
Oh, wow, that's tough.
But I would say for running back, number 3. At Georgia specifically, it's got to be number 3. At wide receiver...
I like 1 at wide receiver.
1 is really clean.
1 is a good look at wide receiver.
If it's the right build, I do love number 8.
Yes.
We'll see what Landon Roldan does with that.
Yeah,
I think he could continue to carry that legacy a little bit. We'll see.
Defensive back. Let me hear me out. Number 2.
We haven't gotten very many of those.
Watching Demario Minter this week kind of made me like, damn, he looked very, very fun to watch.
I think Zion rocks it pretty good.
He looks clean
well.
in number 2. Richard looked good when he rocked it.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that one. For any interior defensive lineman, I love 99 on him. I think JJA rocks it so well.
Yes.
I love, and I know he's not interior really, but 99 just looks clean. I like it. So there's some of my favorites. H Jacket 68 says, "What year of Madden has the best soundtrack? Also, get ready to speak Kirktober, Kirby."
First of all, let me address the Kirktober thing because I love that decision. Oh, no, we're paying $13 million for a veteran quarterback to coach up our number 1 overall pick instead of throwing him to the fire. Dang. I think that's a great deal. And, by the way, Falcons are paying $8 million this year, so we got him on the hook.
Yeah. Hey, we tried it too. Hasn't exactly worked out.
Your situation
so far
was completely different. Yours was, let's give this guy all this money to be our franchise quarterback, and then let's behind his back draft Michael Penix.
Yeah, but You have no idea what they told him. Maybe Tom told him, we're not drafting Fernando. Don't believe it. You should come here.
Whatever, dude. To answer the second question, Madden soundtracks in the early 10s, late 2000s had some bangers.
It's Madden 11 for me.
Madden 12 for me.
Okay, both of those are really good.
That ain't classy as the intros, especially on the Wii. But I pulled up the list: 6 foot, 7 foot, all around the world.
Yeah, dude.
Get Up by Korn.
Okay,
come on. Get the F Up by Yellowwood.
Yeah, man.
A lot of bangers on it. A lot of forgotten bangers.
The best sports soundtrack for how it fits the game and everything, though. It's MLB The Show 21, and you can seriously look up the playlist on Spotify of MLB The Show 21. Tell me I'm wrong. It is one of the best soundtracks ever made.
2K13 also deserves
2K13 was phenomenal.
Also deserves a shout.
H-Jacket also says, why are the Falcons throwbacks, in fact, better than the Raiders uniforms?
Because the Raiders' normal uniforms are their throwback uniforms. See, we haven't had to alter tradition. It's been the same throughout.
I do like the Raiders uniforms.
Thank you.
I think it's a clean look.
I appreciate that.
It's as basic as they are, I think they look clean.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a classic. You don't need to change it. It's like the Steelers.
Dolphin Master, how are you handling the Kirk news?
It's raining Cole's cash up in here, baby. I'm loving it. I'm excited. You know who's not excited? Everyone at the Bellagio is going to have to start serving milk.
Yeah, when Fernando Mendoza and Brock Bowers and Kirk Cousins walk into the casino, they're probably like, "Aw, dang, dude."
They're going to walk in and start handing out Bibles. God, dude. Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza are here. They're shutting down our business.
This is one of my favorite questions that we have. If you could Frankenstein a new UGA player from past players, taking one attribute from each old player, who would be each of y'all's Frankendog?
Okay. I say we table this one because that's such a good question that it deserves its own segment.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and take it up, but that is a phenomenal question.
Yes.
I think in simple terms, how we said it pre-show, ultimately just give me a tight end that's Brock Bowers with Darnell Washington's height, and then maybe give him the personality of Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
That'd be
Brock
the
Bowers
perfect
also
player.
has a great personality.
No, he has a great personality, but the outgoingness of a Jordan Davis, it'd literally be the perfect player for a tight end. But yeah, I really want to save that question. We'll do that. We'll do an entire show segment on that. So we'll save that one discourse. KJ Harris, perhaps a Brooks question, but since there was such an emphasis on stopping the run, did it lead to us giving up more explosives in the passing game, or was it simple as a miscommunications and younger DBs? Brooks actually answered this in the Discord, so I'll read you his answer. He said, you didn't commit to stopping the run with extra bodies. It was an emphasis on striking and shedding blocks more than a commitment resources wide to stopping the run. Wasn't like you loaded the box. Philosophy more than scheme.
Yeah, I was going to say, there wasn't a time this year where an explosive pass was given up and I thought, damn, they bid on play action too much, or we had a safety being too close to the box or something like that. It was more just, Ellis has to make a better play on the ball. DeMello has to cover better. Our safeties were misaligned in that, or we just flat out busted. So I don't think that it was necessarily Kirby Smart placed such an emphasis on stopping the run. It goes back to their common phrase, do more with less.
Right.
You dedicate less bodies to the run so that you can cover in the back end.
It's why they've been so successful against Tennessee in prior years, because they don't commit extra bodies. They can play it with a light box, stop the run, and therefore they can defend their widespread offense. LB asks, does UGA finally have a group of receivers that instills fear in SEC defenses to complement the running game? It seems to be the vibe. That seems to be what the potential of this room. We just don't know yet. But, yeah, I think that this room is talented enough to become that, to where you got to respect everybody. I don't expect this wide receiver room to get put in a position where it was kind of last year, where when Colby Young gets injured, it's, all right, this Zachariah Branch guy, that's who we really have to worry about. That's what it felt like at times. That's not because Dylan Bell isn't really talented or because London Humphreys isn't really talented or anything like that. But I think you just have more guys that have the ability to be these eye catchers for defenses, like Talon Taylor's speed and Sokovia White's ability to make plays after the catch, CJ Wiley and Isaiah Canyon. I think all of those guys have abilities that will require a lot of attention from defenses to where, I think it should complement your run game better. They just got to prove it. That's the only thing we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and to answer that a little further, you're not going to find out the answer to that till mid-October, because right now no one really knows what that wide receiver room is going to look like, and you're going to have 2 games of, they're just beating up on cans. Of course they're playing really well. It's going to take a while for people to actually watch tape and go, oh, they have 4 dudes this year. We're in trouble. We have to do everything we can to stop them. It's going to be that. So you're not going to start seeing teams really start dedicating things to the passing game until then.
Yeah, completely agree. Magic Maddie asks, top 5 fast food items must have a drive-through.
Top 5 fast food items.
One of them is definitely the sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle.
All right, let's just make a comprehensive list.
Okay, that's one of them for
Sausage,
me.
egg, and cheese McGriddle. Chick-fil-A waffle fries.
Definitely on
I
there.
think that's a fair one.
That's a good one.
Shamrock Shake.
I'm not a fan.
All right,
I'm not a fan of the mint chocolate chip stuff.
We don't have to put that out there. It was a feeler.
Raising Cane's Texas Toast.
That's fine. I don't hate that.
Just my opinion.
All right, how about where's anything with tater tots?
Who has good?
You know what? Chick-fil-A hash browns in the morning.
You want to swap that for the waffle fries?
They're two different entities. They're counting.
All right,
for
so the
both spots.
Chick-fil-A hash browns, and then we need one more. I'm trying to think of one that I'm clearly overlooking right now.
There's definitely something we're overlooking.
You know, one of my favorite, like if we want to add a dessert into the mix, my favorite thing, like dessert place right now, is Culver's, and you get a concrete mixer that is Oreo and cheesecake. It is so bomb.
Well, dude, I understand why that's like diabetes in a cup. Man.
I know, dude. I even I go as far as I get the kitty because it's still plenty for me. I don't even get a small. I just take the kitty.
Hell
It's
yeah.
it's just the perfect amount. I'm not a sweet treat guy. Like I don't have a sweet tooth like that or anything. But
Come on, man, you're a sweet treat. Come on,
but
dude.
my obviously my pregnant wife has been on a sweet treat.
Well, they
kick.
get a pass.
Oh yeah. So anytime she wants, I'm
That's
like,
sweet
all right.
treat city for them.
So that's why another reason why I'm getting the kitties if I do get one, because there's a stipulation too where if they want to get a sweet treat, you also have to get one or else they're not getting one. Now there's been a couple of times where I'm like, sorry, I just really don't want one. I'm good.
All right, I'm going to manipulate things here because this place does have a drive-through. A peanut butter cup blast from Brewster's.
I haven't been to a Brewster's in forever.
I'm putting that on the list.
They used to have one in Oakwood and they took it out.
I know it's not like fast food per se, but it's got a drive-through. Peanut butter cup blast goes on that list. Elite.
Caleb Mathis asks, if you got 100 rushing attempts with Georgia's offensive line, how many of them would result in positive yards against an average SEC defense?
All right, well, here's the thing. Georgia's offensive line is really good. So it should allow you to at least get back to the line of scrimmage. I would say probably on, and again, this is going to seem like you arrogant son of a This is all Georgia's offensive line. Probably like 50 to 60. And that's not, Kirby's rattling off 10-yard gains. That's Christian Kirby with another 1-yard carry or got back to the line. Like I would have a net probably like 6. I would probably have total of 50 rushing yards if I got 100 attempts behind Georgia's offensive line.
I assume this is with the assumption that we never get injured because I would never in a million years would I make it to 100 attempts.
I'm operating on that. So it's like every rep is a new rep.
Okay, so I'm fresh every single time.
Bro, you're long enough that you could fall forward.
I could just dive every single
that's what I'm
time.
saying. Like we're cheating the system.
Hand it to me in the fullback spot. I can get a yard, but honestly, I don't know. Like maybe like 30. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I'm never breaking off a run longer than 5 yards. That's not what I'm saying. But like, get back to the line and getting back to the line and getting 1 yard is the offensive line's job anyway.
Right.
Like you should be able to put a Make-A-Wish kid back there and be
Yeah,
like, all right, buddy,
let me just find Juan Gassner or Donnie Glover and literally just run behind them every single time.
So it's not as crazy of a theory as you might think.
I don't have as much faith in myself as you do, but you also played football. I did not, and you're a lot quicker than I am, I would imagine. So, Chris Brown asks, what is your go-to tailgate drink, food, and song?
Wow. I'm going to be honest. I didn't tailgate a ton in college or just ever.
Drink, as a kid, it was Cheerwine.
Interesting.
As I've gotten to grow older, it's just a Coors Light. If it's after the game, give me some Basil Hayden on the rocks. I'm cool with that. Favorite food? It's got to be jalapeno poppers. Got to be jalapeno poppers. Song? I don't really listen to songs before football.
Well, I mean, I love music, but I don't have like this is the tailgate. You know what? The CBS intro. That's my tailgate. That gets me fired up like nothing before.
Yeah, I mean, if we're doing that, I'd just say Krypton.
That's a good one.
Like if someone just wants to or play that or the battle hymn right before, I'm cool with that.
The battle hymn. Oh, Can't play that at the tailgate, though. That's kind of like a, hey, buddy, save that for the real time.
Sure, I agree. But, just one of the, like anything Georgia-centric.
That's fair.
I'm cool with that. Rank the opening college football songs, you just mentioned this, between ESPN, Fox, CBS, etc. So ESPN, I don't know how to rank because they changed it,
They changed it too much. CBS is number 1. That's all that really matters. Fox is fine. Fox gets like 4 or 5.
Yeah. CBS is goated.
CBS is untouchable. For forever, number 1.
I don't know any others that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'd have to hear them. I'd have to hear them to rank them properly. But
yes, all you need to know is CBS is at the top of the list. Hey Ray, I believe is how you say that. Don't know if it's been talked about / non-dog, but what's up with Alabama to Ohio State pipeline? I mean, seems like they've been getting players from top programs, i.e. Dominic Kelly from us as well. The answer that I would give you to this is often probably tied to the fact that players that Alabama and Georgia get, and vice versa with Ohio State as well, they intermingle a lot on the recruiting trail. So odds are players that Georgia is getting and Alabama is getting are also players that Ohio State was trying to recruit as well. So when those players want to enter the portal or they're being influenced into the portal, they already have a pre-existing relationship with Ohio State. So they've already had conversations with Ryan Day or anybody on the coaching staff there. So it feels like it's a pipeline, but it's really just because there's some of the top programs in the country that, they've already intermingled quite a bit. So those were already Ohio State targets to begin with.
And it's an out-of-conference program. It produces NFL talent. There's no denying that. And based on everything we've heard about the NIL rumblings, you typically get a pay raise when you go to Ohio State. So I think that's fair. And Caleb Downs said himself, the competition week in, week out is not as stiff. That's not me saying that. That is an actual player who played for Alabama and Ohio State for 2 years saying week in and week out, I don't have to give my A game. So
facts.
That's probably why it's enticing to go from an SEC school to Ohio State.
Caleb Mathis asks again, what if Pug is unconscious? What is he trying to say? I guess he's asking what if Pug is so good at practice that we have to start him. #QB controversy. Won't happen. Do you know what it would require for Ryan Puglisi to look like for them to be like, we can't play Gunner? In fact, if that did happen, it would be you play both of them.
Yeah,
that's what it would. That's what the result would be, because you paid Gunner Stockton to come back and be your starting quarterback. He's going to play, but Ryan Puglisi, if he's that good, you would just get a 2-quarterback system, in my opinion.
And also, and this is where we get into the politics of it all. You do yourself no favors if you start Gunner Stockton for an entire season and then you bench him for a guy behind him. You get counter-recruited into oblivion if that's the case, because all you have to do is say, oh, that's great, Georgia's going to tell you you're the starting quarterback, but they don't even have loyalty to a guy like Gunner Stockton, who was loved by the fans, who led them to an SEC championship. Yeah, they benched him. They'll do the same to you. Come play for my school instead. So You can't do that.
All right, I'm going to skip a couple questions, mostly because it's a lot of you guys have already asked questions, but there's one question in particular that I really want to get to before the show ends. I'll ask this one, and then we'll get to our final question. Jake Shade asks, guilty pleasure songs.
Ooh. All right, so here's my theory on guilty pleasure songs. If you like it, you like it. Like, don't be embarrassed by it. Now, there are some artists where you're like, maybe don't tell everyone you like that. I love Pink Pantheress. I don't know if any of you know who that is.
I didn't know who it was until you told me before the show.
Love her. I would say the song that I probably feel most guilty for loving, because I do not like this artist whatsoever, is Agora Hills by Doja Cat. That song rocks, dude. No, I don't like anything else she makes, but that one song is my guilty pleasure. But I don't feel guilty for liking it.
I guess mine would be, I don't know. I think Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift is a jam.
All right.
I guess that'd be my guilty.
Cruel Summer by Bananarama is a better song, though.
Oh, okay.
Shout out the Karate Kid.
I'll have to check it out. Like
I've seen the Karate Kid. You've heard that song.
Okay. I'm not sitting here listening to Taylor Swift, but if I had to pick a Taylor Swift song to listen to and I'll enjoy it, it'd probably be Cruel Summer.
Taylor Swift used to have good music.
Yeah. So
her best song is Never Grow Up, by the way. In case there's any Swifties in the chat.
All right, this comes from Unk in the Discord. This is going to be our final question of the show before we head on out. Alabama AD Greg Byrne made a statement/suggestion about removing schools that don't follow the rules. Do you think more schools will start taking a firm stance like that? I hope so. I said it during the national hour that if we are going to get college football programs to actually obey by these rules that are being set in front of them, like the NCAA trying to force punishment on teams that could potentially take ghost transfers in the spring transfer portal. I don't think that the NCAA can be the people that imposes those rules because nobody wants to listen to them anyways. They'll just take them to court and they'll beat them and it won't matter anyways. But if the SEC or the Big Ten or the ACC would actually be the ones that govern these rules and actually set them in place and push the punishments on these programs, I think that schools would listen, and I hope that more schools do take that type of stance. Now, the only issue you run into is, well, if the SEC doesn't, the Big Ten doesn't, then you're kind of setting this unlevel playing field. But something has to be done, and if it's the conferences pushing these rules on their own programs, then so be it. But something has to be done.
Yes. And this is kind of where we're getting to the Irish honor system of you guys govern yourselves. You guys make sure you do the right thing, and we'll all kind of nod and say, all right, we're going to do this. And then you look around and you're like, well, if we don't follow these rules, we have a competitive advantage over one another. And I mean, that's what it is right now. Like, it's essentially the Irish honor system. Like, you're not supposed to pay players just outright to pay to play. There's supposed to be NIL deals tied to what you're doing, but you get a competitive advantage if you kind of go in between the lines there, and everyone's breaking those rules right now. So in an ideal world, in a utopian college football society, yeah, there are these rules, and there's no need to have anyone enforce them because everyone's following it, but we know.
Yep. All right.
Is that all the Discord questions? We have time for one more?
Let me see if I can find one more. The same guy did ask guilty pleasure hobby.
Guilty pleasure hobby. I don't know if I have like something where I'm like, ooh, I hope no one sees me enjoying this.
Yeah.
Like listening to like songs would be the guilty pleasure hobby I have. And like people say like, oh, pickleball should be your guilty. I don't feel guilty for that.
No, that's not a guilty hobby.
Pickleball's fun, dude.
You're out there exerting energy and doing something physical, a physical activity. That's a good thing. Hey, I don't know that I have like a guilty pleasure hobby. I don't know. Maybe I need to find one? I don't know.
Yeah, dude, you need a hobby. You got
I have hobbies. I just need a guilty pleasure hobby, I suppose.
You got too much time on your hands, yeah. Well,
Maybe that's something I need to figure out. I don't know. All right. Well, that is going to be the end of the show. That is it for the rest of the week as well. Next week, we will have Brooks back in studio, I believe, for the entire week as well. So you'll have all three of us back here for both the national hour and the local hour. We appreciate you guys, all of you guys, for anybody that tuned in this week. Stay locked in with just me and Kirby. Even though it's not the natural format of our show, we appreciate all the support that you guys have shown us and the allegiance that you've shown to us. So it means a lot to us that you guys continue to tune in and show a bunch of love to us, even though the head man is not in office. So have a great weekend. We love it. What?
you call him the head man.
The head man.
The head honcho. It's better.
Okay. The boss man, even though the boss man is not here, we appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We love and appreciate you guys. We'll see you later.
Shakliana Williams.